What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
6LS. Chapter 126. Kill the Celestial Dragons. Blame Supernova. Kami is there, but she's wearing a bomb collar, and if we take her, the collar will explode. And now Nami is still competing with Celestial Dragons, you wait for Nami's results first. Xiaoba dragged behind and kept trying to persuade Luffy, trying to make him stop. Wow. Xiaoba's clothes were torn apart by his arms, let go of Luffy and stood there at a loss, waving his arms wildly. What? Hand, he is a murloc. Why are murlocs on land? Go away. Don't come near me, it's disgusting. I heard that murlocs have infectious diseases. Get off the island, go back to the sea and go monster. The people in the auction house all stayed away from Xiaoba, yelling and wanting to, 157, to drive Xiaoba out of here. Starfish Papagu trotted all the way over, jumped on Xiaoba's shoulder and said, Xiaoba, run away for now. Otherwise you will be in danger later. Xiaoba's face was ugly. I don't care, but what about Kami? Nami, who witnessed all this, his pupils dilated and asked palely, what's going on? She always thought that murlocs were superior, but she didn't expect this to be the case here, being discriminated against by humans to such an extent. Moran buried his head in Acedus' arms and explained without raising his head, on this island, the mermaids and murlocs are discriminated against. I'm here to save you. Kami. Luffy didn't have Xiaoba to pull her, and she was fast, almost reaching the high platform. The auctioneer didn't panic at all, pointed at Luffy and said, catch him, don't let him get close to the auction platform. A-hole. Kami is not a commodity. Boom. Suddenly there was a gunshot, and a bullet flew past Luffy's ear, pointing directly at Hachi behind Luffy, Celestial Dragon Saint Charos, who was going to trouble Nami, but turned around at some point aim at Xiaoba and start grabbing directly. 1 second before the Celestial Dragons raised their hands, Moran suddenly said, Acedus drove the Celestial Dragons to death, and then threw the captains of the two supernovas beside the Celestial Dragons, making them bite each other. Hearing Moran's words, Nami's eyes widened, and she said urgently with fear, you can't do this, or Luffy will be arrested by Marine Admiral. She also knew not to mess with the Celestial Dragons, or she would be hunted down by the Admiral of Headquarters. Moran was clearly framing the situation by doing so. Although she didn't understand how Moran was going to frame so many people here, it didn't take long for Nami to understand how Moran was framed and framed. Nami was still shaking Moran's arm desperately, Acedus had stood up, and opened the big move at the moment Celestial Dragons started to grab. Moko Potmo. In an instant, time and space were frozen, and Acedus quickly came to the side of Celestial Dragons, picked up the knife that fell on the ground and stabbed one of them, then put away the bullets shot by Celestial Dragons, and quickly came to Eustace Kid, grabbed he threw his collar in the direction of Celestial Dragons, and quickly came to Luffy, also grabbed the collar and threw it in the direction of Celestial Dragons. After doing these things, Acedus returned to Moran in an instant, and the time-space freeze just ended for a few seconds. Rumble. Bang. 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 The people in the auction house only saw a cloud of dust rising from the location of the Celestial Dragons, and there was a sound of falling to the ground inside. When the dust cleared, they saw Luffy and Eustace Kid standing on the ground of the fallen Celestial Dragons with a dazed expression. Beside. It's over. Nami's face was pale, his face was ashen, and his mouth was trembling. Seeing this scene, Nami knew that it was Moran who asked this woman to do it, but she had no evidence, and looking at the current situation, if she said that Moran and the other were the murderers, no one would believe it. What? The Celestial Dragons have been killed. It's not good. Run away quickly. D stepped on me. The scene was chaotic. People were running outside. Neither the pirates nor the nobles wanted to have anything to do with the death of Celestial Dragons. They were running out desperately. Eustace Kid and Luffy were still looking at each other in bewilderment, wondering how they got here. The two of them who came back to their senses had ugly faces. If it was a mistake, one had an ugly face, and the other was still in a daze. Needless to say, the dazed one was Luffy. Looking at the Celestial Dragons lying on the ground, one of the Celestial Dragons there was a knife stuck in his body, they didn't know if he was dead or not, but the wound was in the heart, so even if he didn't die, he couldn't be saved. Ah, how did I get here? Luffy scratched his head in bewilderment, looked at Eustace Kid and asked. Eustace Kid's face turned green, and he roared angrily, are you asking me? Who am I going to ask? Hole. Gradually, Eustace Kid also came to understand. It was obvious that the two of them were framed by someone, and they should have been thrown over by someone, but he couldn't understand why he didn't have any memory or feeling at all. You can feel it. Suddenly, Eustace Kid's eyes lit up and he thought, it should be about time and space like demon fruit power. It is impossible for someone with this ability to be unknown. Thinking of this, Eustace Kid turned around, looked at Moran and asked, Shichibukai Alphad Moran, Ice Queen Acedus, did you two do it? Moran mocked with a smile on his face. I've been staying where I am, the Celestial Dragons are just the two of you, and you said I killed them. Who would believe it? Pirates. You are dead. Killing the Celestial Dragons will attract the Admiral of Headquarters to hunt them down. By then, none of you will be able to escape. 9.1. The auctioneer sat down on the high platform, he said so, but he also knew that Celestial Dragons had an accident with him, and he probably wouldn't be able to escape. Auction house background. There are iron cages here, where slaves are usually held, and there are many boxes inside. At this time, there are two people in one of the iron cages, a tall and strong man, and a thin, gray-haired old man, sitting on the box. The tall one looked in the direction of the auction house and said, "It's so noisy, it seems that something happened." The white-haired old man took a sip from the wine bottle, found it was empty and said, "Is it empty? Then it's time to go out and buy wine." I thought to myself. I didn't sell myself, so I can only go to Shacky's and exchange my waste for some wine. Alas, my waste. Chapter 127. Rayleigh, who is half buried and still likes to pretend. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 97. 24. 32. It's important that Luffy save people first, and leave the rest alone. Nami ran to Luffy and said. Discussing who killed celestial dragons now means nothing to them, and she knows who this person is, but there is no proof. Hearing this, Luffy rushed to the high platform without saying a word and shouted, "Give me back Kami." Bang, bang, bang. Luffy met a group of guards. The guards were not Luffy's opponents at all. They were thrown into the air and hit the audience. The Straw Hat Pirates rushed in to cooperate with Luffy and fought with a group of guards. Boom, boom. For a while, they fought independently, and the fight was in full swing. Although the guards were weak, they won because of the large number of people. Luffy couldn't get away for a short time. Kill the celestial dragons without letting others notice. You are the only one with this kind of strength and ability here. Eustace Kid kept holding on to Moran, insisting that he killed the celestial dragons. Moran rubbed his head with a bit of a headache. He can't kill him, at least not now, otherwise no one will blame him. Moran's eyes lit up, and he suddenly remembered, isn't Aokiji on his way to pick him up? Thinking of this, Moran said slowly, I have good news for you, the Admiral of Headquarters is rushing to our place, and it's already on its way before the auction starts. What? Hearing this news, Eustace Kid didn't bother to worry about who killed the celestial dragons anymore. He turned around and said directly, Marine Admiral is coming, let's go. Suddenly Moran felt a burst of Conqueror's Haki, sweeping out from the backstage of the auction house, and then the wall on the high platform was as paper pasted, and 10 hands directly smashed the wall from the inside. Eustace Kid, who was about to leave, turned around and continued to watch the fun, thinking, it should be okay to delay for a while, right? Bang bang boom. Those who were weak around were stunned by the Conquerors, falling to the ground one after another in twos and threes. Except for Moran and Acedus, the others who were still standing looked solemnly at the opening on the high platform, which was torn open with bare hands. I saw an old man slowly coming out from the inside, with his head down and his face couldn't be seen clearly. His gray hair added a sense of mystery to him. Rayleigh looked around and said, look at Mr. Titan, the venue is in chaos, the auction is over. Although I didn't sell myself, I stole some money just now, so let's go back to the casino. A huge figure appeared behind Rayleigh, and he said speechlessly, you are such a bad old man. You came here to steal money, right? Rayleigh said shamelessly, if I'm lucky, I'm not going to rob my buyer. But I don't have a chance. Thinking about it, I know I'm already old. No one would want someone like me to be a slave. Ha 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 ha. Looking at the pretending Rayleigh, Moran taunted unhappily. You have destroyed old guy, you just made an appearance, so why make such a big show? Rayleigh seemed to notice Moran at this moment, and said with a look of surprise, oh. Isn't this Shichibukai Alphad hyphenation point Moran? There must be no good things with you, I'm not going to the casino. Rayleigh looked at the mess around him, thought it was Moran who made it, and planned to run away. He didn't want to get involved in Moran's troubles, after all, he also found a few lying celestial dragons at this time. Moran casually threatened. If you dare to run, I'll tell you that you killed the celestial dragons. If you don't believe me, you can try it. The leg that Rayleigh just stepped out was directly frozen in the air, his face gradually darkened, he turned around and shouted. You be asterisk 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 D caused trouble by yourself, why do you have to drag me? Hey, hello, Rayleigh. Don't talk nonsense, I didn't dismantle this place, and I didn't kill the celestial dragons, and everything here has nothing to do with me. Admit it, or he wouldn't have planted supernova. Boom. Crash. Because no one stopped him, Luffy smashed the fish tank with a punch. He was not afraid that Kami would be hurt by the glass. Fortunately, there was water inside and no one was hurt. Water flowed everywhere on the high platform. Who else could it be if it wasn't you? Rayleigh asked suspiciously. Obviously doesn't believe Moran's nonsense, but it doesn't matter whether he believes it or not. Anyway, killing the celestial dragons only needs someone to blame, who cares about the truth? Is this your friend? Eustace Kid was carried by his crew and went outside. What they didn't know was that at this time, the outside was already surrounded by 3 floors in the marine and 3 floors outside. Another bunch of heartwarming recognitions from Balabala. Quote. I'm going to kill you B asterisk 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 D. Eustace Kid couldn't take it anymore when he heard this, and wanted to come over to fight Moran in a rage. Twist. Rayleigh, is it really you? The child looked at the gray-haired Rayleigh. When he saw Rayleigh before, he still had blonde hair. He didn't dare to recognize him just now, thinking it wasn't the one he knew. People. Nami. You need a key to open this. Frankie has already gone to find it. I guess he will be back soon. Xiaoba replied truthfully. That's right, he is my friend. He was kidnapped and sold here. I haven't found the key yet. His collar can't be opened. Luffy. How do you get this collar off? Rayleigh had an expression of I believe you, and thought to himself, it seems that I won't be able to leave in a short time. What? His crew quickly grabbed Eustace Kid and persuaded. Boss, calm down, the opponent is Shichibukai and we have no chance of winning. Rayleigh, who had nothing to do, leaned in front of Xiao Ba and looked carefully and exclaimed, isn't this a child? Another crew member said, boss, let's go quickly. Marine Admiral is coming soon. Rayleigh asked as he saw Kami wearing the collar. Moran pointed to Luffy, then pointed to Eustace Kid and said, hey. These two bastards did it. How could a coward like me dare to kill celestial dragons? If they had just left directly, there wouldn't be so many messes. Curiosity killed the cat if they had to turn around to watch the fun. The kid pirates thought to themselves. Luffy and his crew, well done, surrounded Kami and were studying how to open the collar, but there is no key for this collar, and it is estimated that only those who can use emission hockey, or have the ability like Luo can open it. Chapter 128. Unlucky reminder, Eustace Kid. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 179. 45. 60. Seeing Rayleigh stepping forward suddenly, Xiao Ba immediately grabbed Kami's collar, and said anxiously, Rayleigh's collar will explode and cannot be removed by force. Drip. Drip. Drop. As soon as Xiao Ba finished speaking, the collar rang, and the beeping became faster and faster, and it was about to explode. Xiao Ba closed his eyes in despair. Luffy, who came back to his senses, roared angrily, it's going to explode like this, what do you be do you want? Rayleigh still held on to the collar regardless. Suddenly a red light flashed in his eyes, the collar was opened with a click, and Rayleigh threw it out at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Rumble. The explosion of the collar kicked up a cloud of dust, and when the dust cleared, everyone finally saw what was going on inside. Kami was not killed as they thought, but looked at Rayleigh unharmed and cute. Kami, it's great that you're fine. Xiao Ba rushed forward and hugged Kami, tightly in his arms. Moran secretly poked 8 trigrams not far away and said, it seems that these two fish have an affair. Seeing that Kami was fine, Luffy and the others also showed bright smiles, and they came together to ask for warmth. Suddenly a red light flashed in Rayleigh's eyes, and his face gradually darkened. Seeing that Xiao Ba and the others were still talking non-stop, he hurriedly urged, if you want to talk about the past, you have to wait until you leave here safely. There is a monster outside, if you don't leave, maybe you will all be left behind. He didn't talk about us but you, because he has the strength to leave, but Xiao Ba and his friends may not be able to do so. Luffy asked blankly, Uncle, what kind of monster are you talking about? Rayleigh glanced at Moran at Kaido, the Admiral of Headquarters is already waiting outside. OT. Rayleigh had just finished talking about the sword that fell on the ground, and suddenly trembled, and after a while, all of them flew up by themselves. Zoro grabbed the knife at his waist in a daze, so as not to fly away with him. When Moran saw this movement, he knew that the Eustace Kid had already fought with Marine outside, so he walked up to the auctioneer and asked, where is your treasure house here? Pat. The auctioneer turned his back to the crowd and was secretly making a phone call when he was startled when he heard Moran's words, and the phone bug dropped to the ground. Moran took 2 steps forward to pick up the phone bug and thought, pink and with thin and long eyes, this should be Doflamingo's phone bug. Thinking of this, Moran asked directly, Moshi Moxie. I am Alphad Moran, and you are Doflamingo. Shishi. There was a burst of laughter from the phone bug, and Doflamingo laughed for a while before he said, that's right, it's me, Alphad Moran. Hearing what you just asked, you want to rob my auction house. I just want to rob your pie shop, what can you do to me? Bang. Phone bug. Watching the phone bug close his eyes, Moran directly threatened without talking nonsense, take me to the treasure house, or find it myself after I kill you. After the auctioneer staged a face-changing Sichuan opera, he still feared death and took Moran to the backstage of the auction house. It didn't take long to come to the door of a room, and after opening the door, he said, all the Baileys that the auction house earned in a few months are inside. Moran glanced at the system space after receiving it, and complained, it's only 3 billion Baileys, you're a poor guy. The auctioneer broke out in a cold sweat when he heard this, and explained tremblingly, the auction house collects money from Doflamingo every once in a while, and they don't store too much money here at all. Moran didn't look like he was telling a lie, turned around and went out and said, Acedus, let's go out to watch the excitement, there is no more excitement here. It is good. Acedus responded and walked out following Moran's footsteps. At this moment, at the gate of the auction house, Eustace Kid dragged a huge arm made of various metals, with an ugly expression on his face, staring fixedly at a tall and thin man walking out step by step. The crew next to him said tremblingly, Boss, it's Marine Admiral Aokiji, we're in trouble. Ah la la, are you the ones who killed the world's noble celestial dragons? Aokiji asked not far from Eustace Kid's group. Before he arrived at the Sabayati archipelago, Marshal Sengoku called him and asked him to deal with the supernovas first, and pick up Moran's group after he was done. After all, in Marine's eyes, the matter of celestial dragons always comes first. Ask for flowers. It wasn't me who killed the celestial dragons, but Shichibukai Alphad Moran, why don't you go to him and come to me? Eustace Kid said that I would never take the blame, and explained. Aokiji said blankly, so many people have seen it, your sophistry doesn't make any sense at all. However, Aokiji didn't believe his explanation at all, even if he believed him, he had to pretend not to believe it, otherwise he would be the one who was in trouble. Eustace Kid's giant iron arm was raised above his head, and the huge arm smashed towards Aokiji, and there was a whistling wind when the arm fell. Since there is nothing to talk about, then go to hell. Boom. Aokiji soared into the sky in an instant, leaving only a big hole in place, and directly hit the huge arm with an unremarkable punch. 0. Rumble. Seeing that Kid wanted to gather his weapons again, Aokiji quickly rushed in front of him, with 2-meter-long legs, and kicked Kid's head hard. Tinkling. Shave. Aokiji, who had just landed, saw this scene, scratched his head in embarrassment, and apologized. I'm sorry, everyone, please step back a little bit. The poor Eustace Kid flew upside down again and landed in the marine crowd, twitching all over. Moran purposely said funny. Acedus, I seem to have kicked something, did you see it? Please subscribe. Bump. Run away. Eustace Kid couldn't react at all, and was kicked upside down in an instant, smashing towards the door of the auction house. A Marine colonel looked at all the wounded soldiers around him, and said with a mournful face, Aokiji Admiral, can you take care of us? The arm composed of various weapons was directly smashed by Aokiji's punch, and various weapons fell from the sky like rain. Bump. The weapon fell and hit many Marine soldiers, and all the Marine soldiers retreated away from the battlefield. As soon as Moran came out and reached the gate of the auction house, suddenly a person flew over, and he raised his foot reflexively and kicked it. Not good. Acedus explained solemnly. No. Moran, you read it wrong. Aha. Chapter 129. Sabayati Archipelago, The Legend v Admiral. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 756. 189. 252. Click. Colonel Marine looked at the twitching Eustace Kid, lying beside him, and he took out a seastone handcuff and handcuffed him with a click. The colonel yelled at Kira, who was shuttling among a group of Marine soldiers. People, Kid pirates, listen up. Your Captain Eustace Kid has been arrested. Don't make unnecessary resistance. Put down your weapons and surrender. Bar. Kid. Hateful. Kira saw Stas Kid, who had passed out and was caught, and stopped attacking with an ugly face. He knew that Marine Admiral was there, and they couldn't fight at all, but if he wanted him to surrender, Marine was probably dreaming. When the two sides were facing each other and might fight at any moment, the Marine soldier saw Moran walking out and exclaimed, That's 7 warlords of the sea Alphad Moran, why is he here? Seeing Moran, Aokiji thought to himself, if this guy really killed the celestial dragons, this matter will be troublesome. Now 21 is preparing for the battle at naval headquarters, and soon they will face off against Whitebeard. If this guy is involved at this time, then the war can be declared over before it even starts. Thinking of this, Aokiji asked directly, Does the death of Alphad Moran celestial dragons have anything to do with you? Moran pretended to be innocent and said, I am so cowardly, how could I do such a dangerous thing, and I saw 2 supernovas killing celestial dragons inside, not just 1 or 2, Aokiji, don't avenge me. Quote. The surrounding Marine soldiers, including Aokiji, rolled their eyes when they heard Moran's words. Moran received thousands of eye rolls, and these people were secretly scolding Moran for being shameless. You, Alphad Moran, are still cowardly. Do not believe it. Since it has nothing to do with you, then you go to the side and wait first. I'll take you to the naval headquarters to attend the Shichibukai meeting after I've dealt with this. Aokiji doesn't plan to investigate the truth, as long as someone takes the blame, he doesn't want to fight with Moran. Moran said with a mysterious face, if you Marines want to handle the affairs here, you, Aokiji alone, probably can't handle it. Aokiji's eyes flashed red when he heard this, and he glanced inside. At this moment, Rayleigh brought Luffy and others to the gate. Aokiji's face gradually darkened. He knew that Moran was inside to participate in the sale, but he didn't receive the news that there is such a troublesome guy in it. What Aokiji didn't know was that Garp suppressed the news that Rayleigh was inside and didn't let the soldiers report it. It's normal for her not to know. People around also noticed it, and immediately exclaimed, that can't be the vice captain of the Roger Pirates, Silver Rayleigh. Absolutely unmistakable, Pluton Rayleigh, the right arm of One Piece, the legendary man. The Marine soldiers around trembled and exclaimed with pale faces. When the colonel saw the soldiers who were already in disarray before the fight started, he roared angrily, be quiet, with Aokiji Admiral here, what are you afraid of? Yes, we have Aokiji Admiral here, don't be afraid of them. Exactly. Not far away, Moran ruthlessly mocked, if you're not afraid, why are your feet shaking like this? Is this a new training method for Marine? Hitting but not being able to hit, cursing but not being able to scold, all Marines chose to be temporarily deaf, pretending that they could not hear Moran's words. When Aokiji saw Rayleigh coming out, he turned his head and glanced at the colonel. This colonel was on his warship, and he immediately understood what Aokiji meant, so he hid behind and secretly called someone. Rayleigh took 2 steps forward and said, can Aokiji sell me some face? It's not in anyone's interest to let us guys go and fight. If Aokiji is here and he doesn't stand up, it is estimated that Xiaoba, Luffy and others will not be able to escape. Before Aokiji was not found just now, he was planning to hide behind and sneak around, but the plan can't keep up with the changes. Aokiji said with an ugly face, 3 celestial dragons are dead, if you let you leave safely, then my admiral will probably be lost. Rayleigh took out a knife out of nowhere, rushed to Aokiji and said, then there's no other way, I'll do a few tricks with you, old man. Rayleigh was very fast, and he came to the sky in front of Aokiji in an instant, and slashed down fiercely with a single knife. Seeing Rayleigh rushing up, Aokiji didn't dare to neglect, half of his body turned into ice, and a skate appeared in his hand, and Haki covered him to meet him. Clang! The air waves generated by the collision spread in all directions in circles, and everyone around them was blown back again and again by the air waves. The two were deadlocked. Aokiji's freezing ability began to spread to Rayleigh's knife, and when it was about to spread to his arm, Rayleigh suddenly kicked. Boom! Kicking half of Aokiji's body into pieces, Rayleigh took 2 steps back and shook the knife in his hand, shattering the ice attached to it. This time Luffy didn't stand still and clamored to fly the enemy, but led the crowd to find a direction, intending to break out. Don't pretend I don't exist. Seeing the mess, the colonel cursed Aokiji in his heart for being unreliable, so he could only order, all retreat to the back to form a bigger encirclement, don't mess around. Xiao Ba saw that Luffy didn't want to run away and persuaded, twist. Luffy just listened to Rayleigh, he is very strong, don't worry. Aokiji Admiral's freezing ability, spread over. 997 inches not good. Click, click. In a blink of an eye, Aokiji, with only half of his body left, returned to his original appearance, and the ground under his feet began to freeze, slowly spreading around. Zoro also persuaded. Not only can we not help Luffy here, but it will become a burden. It's too early for us who are strong like this. Aokiji wanted to rush over to stop Luffy and the others, but Rayleigh caught up with him just halfway through, and slashed fiercely at Aokiji's back. Rayleigh saw the surrounding marine soldiers retreating one after another, turned his head and said, I'm holding Marine Admiral, you guys should find a chance to escape first. Luffy still couldn't recognize the current situation and asked, Uncle, we ran away, so what should you do? Run away. A group of marine soldiers began to spread out. Moran saw that the fight had started, so he found a roof to sit on and watched with relish. It's Colonel Bourgeois. ... Ask for a subscription. Ask for a flower. Ask for a monthly pass. Aokiji wants to create a battlefield that is conducive to his own strength, but he forgets that he is surrounded by his men, are soldiers of the Sabayati archipelago. Chapter 130. Rayleigh v Aokiji. Crash. Aokiji had a long gash in his back, so he had no choice but to stop. Rayleigh looked at the wound he had made, not a single drop of blood flowed out, and the wound was still healing slowly. The corner of Rayleigh's mouth twitched, and he thought to himself, this Logia is really troublesome. Aokiji knew that Rayleigh was here, so he couldn't catch up, so he turned around and started fighting with Rayleigh. Tinkling. Ping pong. The swordsmanship contest between the two moved so fast that it was invisible to the naked eye, only the moment when the two swords collided, a storm of sword blades formed around them, and there was no one around, and they did not fight. All kinds of sword chi and slashing blows flew around. Bump. The two collided again, and both were pushed back by the recoil generated by the collision for more than 10 meters before stabilizing their bodies. Acedus looked at the two fighting with a lack of interest, and said, Moran, the two of them are not serious about fighting, it looks so boring. Moran actually found out that these two actors talk very well, but they don't use much real skills when fighting. Aokiji probably plans to imitate Kizaru and start acting. Moran began to flicker. Ace Day, you have to look at it from a different angle, and you will find the fun in it. Look at these two actors, don't they perform very well, and are they very selling? Moran thought to himself. If they were allowed to act, they would all be hot talents, but unfortunately there is no such thing as an actor here. Boo boo, boo boo. When Colonel Magellan was about to make a call, he was interrupted by the frozen ground of Aokiji, and he had no time to make a call until now. Aokiji's warship originally had several rear admiral adjutants, but this time he was only here to pick up Moran, so he brought a colonel with him, otherwise they didn't need support, and they could take down all the supernovas themselves. Moshi Moshi. I'm Sengoku. Marshal Sengoku. I'm Colonel Magellan. When we captured the supernova that killed the celestial dragons, we met Silver Rayleigh, and Aokiji Admiral was dragged by him. Speaking of this, the colonel said with guilt on his face, we are not the opponent of Supernova, so we ask the headquarters to send support. Crane Vice Admiral also heard it not far away, and immediately reminded, Sengoku. Moran is also in Sabayati archipelago, if he is willing to help, this matter will be resolved easily. Sengoku was silent for a while, and instead of listening to Suru Vice Admiral, he asked Moran for help, but said, I will let Kizaru Admiral go to support you, you hold the enemy first. I know Marshal Sengoku. Ka sauce. Sengoku hung up the phone, looked at Kizaru who was sitting on the sofa and manicured, and said, Kizaru, did you hear that too? I'll let you go. Then let's go, old man. After Kizaru finished speaking, he went out, and when he reached the door, it turned into a golden light beam, soaring into the sky and disappearing into the sky in an instant. After Kizaru left, Sengoku explained, I may be ******** D to help, I'd rather go by myself than ask him for help. Crane Vice Admiral just smiled, no need to guess, she knows why Sengoku didn't ask Moran for help, it's nothing more than being blackmailed by Moran. Sabayati Archipelago, Luffy's group had already rushed out of the encirclement and was fleeing towards Mangrove number 13, with a group of marine soldiers chasing after them. Straw Hat Boy, you stop for me. Bang, 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 bang. The marine soldiers behind were chasing after him, shooting with guns while chasing, but it was useless at all, these guns were just like toy guns. Moran saw this scene on the roof not far away, and said with emotion, Marine's Shinso hands are really Doha, but it's a pity they are all Shinso hands aiming at the side. Puff. Acedus next to him burst out laughing when he heard this, slapped Moran vigorously, and said, Moran, can you please stop being so funny? If you watch their battles from this angle, you shouldn't feel bored. Moran just felt that Acedus was a little bored, so he deliberately teased him. CBDB. The corners of Acedus' lips curled up and said, although their strengths are all weak, it's really interesting to see this way. Caw caw caw. F. Rumble. Hearing a click, Moran looked at the battlefield between Rayleigh and Aokiji. It turned out that it was the aftermath of the battle between the two, which broke a red tree and fell down. Bing 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 bing. Tinkling. The two chatted while fighting. You and I chopped each other, the surrounding area was destroyed badly, but the clothes of the two were not messed up. Moran was speechless for a while. I can't even complain about the two of them. The two collided again and were pushed back again and again by the recoil. Puff. Suddenly Aokiji was struck by lightning from the chest, and the tip of the knife came out of Aokiji's back, but Rayleigh couldn't be happy because Aokiji didn't bleed at all. Sure enough, Aokiji directly grabbed Rayleigh's knife with both hands, and the freezing ability began to freeze his knife, and Rayleigh wanted to pull it out forcefully. Two thorns. But being grabbed by Aokiji so tightly that he couldn't pull it out, the freezing ability began to create several spears around. Boom. Seeing this situation, Rayleigh kicked Aokiji, let go of his hand and gave up the knife, and flew backwards by the recoil. However, Aokiji was stabbed for deliberately selling the flaw. How could he let him go like this? Even though he was not injured, it would be embarrassing to be stabbed. Whoosh. Several spears caught up with Rayleigh, and followed closely behind Rayleigh. Seeing that he couldn't dodge, Rayleigh could only soar into the sky, and his feet turned black instantly to meet the flying spears. Bang, 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 bang. With 1 foot, 1, 3, 5, and 2, the ice spears were eliminated. Rayleigh fell on the ground with a bit of an ugly face. It is a shame for a swordsman to lose his sword. Rayleigh said with a dark face, you young man is playing tricks, you don't talk about martial arts. Ah la la, Aokiji said with a blank face. I don't dare to be careless when dealing with a legendary character like you. Besides, this is my ability. If you fight with others, shouldn't it be that you are not allowed to use your ability? After speaking, Aokiji rushed towards Rayleigh again. Aokiji also gave up using the knife, and came to Rayleigh in an instant. His 2-meter-long legs swept towards Rayleigh's head with a whip. Rayleigh didn't hesitate, quickly covered Hawkeye with his foot and kicked Aokiji's calf hard. Bump. The two of them kept their legs out, and when they were in a stalemate, the soles of Aokiji's feet began to freeze quickly. Rayleigh's face darkened immediately, his feet shook slightly, and the ice spreading over was instantly shattered. Chapter 131. Aokiji who was almost driven crazy by Moran. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 349. 87. 116. Rayleigh glanced at the knife thrown not far away by Aokiji, quickly stretched out his hand and grabbed Aokiji's foot, and threw Aokiji out, but rushed to the position of the knife. After Aokiji was thrown more than 10 meters away, he landed steadily with a backflip, and he didn't stop Rayleigh from picking up the knife. A strong man of their level would not be weakened because he didn't have a weapon. Rayleigh went to pick up the knife not because he couldn't fight without a knife, but because he saw that Luffy and others had already run far away, so he didn't need to fight. In short, Rayleigh wanted to slip away. Rayleigh, who picked up the sword, exuded conqueror's haki all over his body, walked towards Aokiji step by step, and said with a livid face, it's a disgrace to a swordsman that the sword was knocked out. Aokiji, why are you suffering to death? Ah la la. Aokiji saw Rayleigh at this time, and, 653, dripped a drop of cold sweat from his forehead and said, Rayleigh beat me to this extent for a group of irrelevant people. Rayleigh didn't hide anything, and said bluntly, there is nothing wrong with it, there is a little guy who is kind to me, that's all. After saying that, Rayleigh rushed towards Aokiji, came to the sky behind him in an instant, took Conqueror's haki with a knife, and slashed down hard. Aokiji seemed to have eyes behind his back, turned around and raised his knife upwards to meet Rayleigh's knife. Clang, click, click. The ground under Aokiji's feet split like spider webs, and circles of air waves spread in all directions, and the surrounding trees were blown by the air waves. When the two were at a stalemate, Aokiji tried his best to lift up, and Rayleigh had nowhere to rely on in the air, and was directly thrown backwards. Bump, rumble, Rayleigh flew upside down and smashed through a row of houses, and landed in a house tens of meters away. The smashed house collapsed. Aokiji couldn't see it from the ground, but Moran could see it clearly from the roof. At this time, Rayleigh got out of a house that was smashed into ruins, and started to escape in the opposite direction. Moran said speechlessly, so Rayleigh, this old guy, just pretended to be angry on purpose, and his determination to kill Aokiji was also pretended. Ha 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 hiccup. Acedus laughed and said, Moran is really what you said, they played resistance very interesting. Seeing that Rayleigh hadn't gone far, Moran stood up with a smirk on his face and shouted, Aokiji, that old guy Rayleigh wants to run away, why are you standing there? Go after him. Rayleigh, who was sneaking away, heard this, staggered and almost fell, his face darkened instantly, and he quickened his pace and continued to escape, secretly thinking, next time I have a chance, I must seek revenge on this shameless guy. Aokiji was speechless when he heard this. Although he didn't see Rayleigh running away, he was not fake, he just pretended not to know. Now that Moran shouted, he had to chase after him if he didn't. Aokiji followed Rayleigh far away. After the two chased after each other, Aokiji deliberately slowed down, but Rayleigh finally ran away. Moran has been following the show, and after seeing Rayleigh running away, he knew that today's show can only end here, and said to Acedus, these two guys have no intention of continuing to fight, let's go back. Acedus Kaido. Okay, it's a pity that Marine's support is too slow, otherwise you will see the old guy Rayleigh desperately. None of these old guys who have been pirates all their lives are simple characters. Moran thought secretly. Ha 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 hiccup. Aokiji thought to himself. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have fought with Rayleigh. Sure enough, this guy is a scourge, and he won't stop anywhere. Moran thought secretly in his heart. I just plan to go to the Summit War, blackmail you severely, or blackmail the Whitebeard pirates. If I don't bring more people there, how can I persuade you? Asking for a subscription, asking for flowers, asking for a monthly pass. Moran laughed and boasted, I'm such a genius. Moran said without turning his head, you wait for me here for a while, I will ask some people to go with me. Moran murmured to himself, if first catch a Marine Admiral and sell it to Whitebeard pirates, I wonder what price they can offer in 4.1. He also now understands why so many people say they are celestial dragons killed by supernovas, because the woman next to Moran has the ability to pause time and space, and he was beaten up by this woman last time with her ability, but you can't say it, at least not in this time period, or Marine will be in big trouble. Aokiji didn't want to give up yet, so he moved out of Sengoku and said, when I came, Marshal Sengoku said, either you go by yourself, or you don't go. Seeing Aokiji following up, Moran joked, hey, Aokiji, your performance today really opened my eyes. Although it was whispered, Aokiji heard it clearly from the side, and roared with black lines on his face. Can you be more shameless, you be asterisk 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 D. Aokiji saw that Moran had left, so he followed Moran, and he didn't forget that he came to pick Moran to naval headquarters. How is it possible to go by yourself? What if you Marine want to keep me and Whitebeard in Marineford? Aokiji grabbed his hair with a spoiled expression, and complained weakly. I shouldn't have tested your shamelessness, you really aren't the most shameless, only more shameless. Marine actually didn't want Moran to take people there. It's okay that there aren't many strong people in other Shichibukai. You can directly announce the end of the war. Aokiji thought weakly, frowning. Hearing this, Moran thought about it for a while, and then said slowly, I'll sell you once for such a valuable price. I feel a bit of a loss. I've decided, I'll sell you a few more times in the future, so that I don't have to worry about money in the future. Woolen cloth. Thinking of this, Aokiji didn't want to pick up the topic, so as to avoid any accidents, he changed the subject and said, Alfad Lan Moran and several other Shichibukai are already on their way to naval headquarters, Marineford, when do you plan to leave for naval headquarters? Hearing this, Aokiji was stunned, and asked, the other Shichibukai went by themselves, why don't you go by yourself? Chapter 132, Moran takes everyone to Impel Down. Aokiji, I want to take someone with me, do you want to stop me? Moran stared at Aokiji, and said with an expression that if you dare to say no, Lousy will tear you apart. Aokiji doesn't worry about it now, it's not him who has a headache anyway, let Marshal Sengoku have a headache. Thinking of this, Aokiji said indifferently, you can bring as much as you like, anyway, I don't care and I don't want to care about it. Then Moran laughed and said, that's right. You Admiral, what kind of Marshal's heart is UF asterisk 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 G crazy? Let's go, Acedus, let's go back, take all the itchy people, and go to Marineford together, and beat whoever is upset. Ha 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 hiccup. Aokiji watched with a speechless face, and Moran, who walked out of his relatives who did not recognize his footwork, hurriedly followed. Moran took the lead and walked in front, Acedus hugged his arm and followed, Aokiji followed listlessly and acted as a light bulb. It didn't take long for them to arrive not far from number 20 Red Tree. Aokiji looked at Moran who was walking in front, and he admitted that he was envious. The girls on Moran's boat were not only beautiful, but also stronger than each other. Aokiji secretly complained in his heart. I really don't know what's so good about this shameless guy. He's just a little bit more handsome than me, a little bit younger than me, and a little bit stronger than me. Thinking of this, he suddenly reacted, why do you feel like you can't compare to this shameless guy? Moran didn't know the little juju in Aokiji's heart, and when he came to the side of the boat, he shouted, everyone come out, the captain has something to announce. First, a small head emerged from the boat to say hello, Moran big brother, you are back. When other people on the boat heard Moran's words, they all came to the railing of the boat one after another, and looked at Moran with puzzled expressions. After seeing that everyone was assembled, Moran pointed to Aokiji and said, except Shatong, anyone who can blow this guy up, let me come down and gather. Aokiji's face darkened when he heard this, and while he was secretly scolding Moran for looking down on people, he was also secretly surprised, because he saw most of the people on the boat stood up, and he didn't know if they really looked like Moran. As I said, these people can blow him up. If it is true, how strong is this Wanjian pirates? Moran counted and said, Shatong, you still guard the boat as usual, and you have to protect them, do you know? Shatong patted the panda-eyed clothes and assured, I will definitely protect them all, Master Moran, don't worry. Moran looked at the remaining 6 people and said, the other 6 people will go to naval headquarters with me. We will not sail there, but take the Marine's warship. Slap, slap, the 6 people jumped down one after another. Uchiha Madara asked helplessly, Master Moran, why don't we go to New World, why go to naval headquarters? He just wants to go to New World quickly, the pirates here are too weak, and he can't even arouse the slightest interest. The war between Whitebeard and Marine is about to begin, there will be strong people everywhere, don't you like strong people? Hearing this, Uchiha Madara didn't ask any questions, but was discussing with Senju Hashirama excitedly, and asked a dozen questions. Aokiji secretly felt the aura of these 6 people, and exclaimed in his heart, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. He didn't dare to use knowledge to scan the past, lest they think he was provoking, he could only judge the strength of these people by feeling the aura of the strong, all of them are like a group of monsters. After several people came down, Moran said to Aokiji, Aokiji take us, where is your warship? Aokiji led the way without saying a word, and Moran followed behind. This time, Moran brought all the summoned people with him except Shatong, so as not to cause any accidents, he left Shatong to protect them. Weak people. When he came to the warship, Moran said suddenly, Aokiji, I want to go to Impel Down to see the fuse of this war. If you can't decide, just call and ask for instructions. Aokiji asked with a puzzled face, why are you going to see this guy? The execution will be public in a few days, will it look different then? Moran nonsense and threatened. There are still 4 days before the public execution. If I go directly to naval headquarters, I will have to wait for 4 days. If I do that, I will feel very bored. I like it when I am bored. Make trouble, let me make trouble, you guys. Stop, 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 I'll go and ask Marshal Sengoku for instructions. Aokiji looked hopeless, took out his phone and called. He had never seen such a shameless person, but he was so strong. The next morning undersea prison Impel Down, a huge warship is slowly approaching. Impel Down. Aokiji did not stop sailing last night, but was forced by Moran to sail overnight to come here. At this time, there were several reclining chairs on the deck of the warship, and Moran led everyone to lie on the reclining chairs, basking in the sun with salted fish. When Aokiji saw Moran taking out the reclining chairs yesterday, he was stunned and secretly complained, how salty this person is to go out, and he has 6 reclining chairs with him. Then Aokiji also moved out of his recliner, lay on it directly, and basked in the sun together. At this time, one by one, soldiers trotted over and reported, report. Aokiji Admiral, we have arrived at Impel Down, request instructions. Aokiji didn't even take off the blindfold, and said directly, we are going to Impel Down, let's go directly. It's Aokiji Admiral, advance, Zhou Nuohao, City Gate. At this time, Hannibal had been waiting here for a long time. He received the news that Aokiji would lead Shichibukai Alphad Point Moran to visit Impel Down. When he saw that it was Aokiji's warship, he told the soldiers beside him, it is Aokiji Admiral's warship, close the gate quickly. Open it up and let them in. It's Hannibal Deputy Director playing. Hearing that the soldier called him the Deputy Director, he suddenly said unhappily, what is the name of the Deputy Director? If you remove the Deputy, you will call me the Director, do you understand? Understood the Director. Hannibal immediately beamed with relief, and said, that's right. Don't worry, when I become Director, I will promote you to be Deputy Director. Ha 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 hiccup. Seeing Hannibal laughing, the soldier was sweating coldly on his forehead, and secretly complained, Deputy Director Hannibal wants to be the Director, he is already crazy. Chapter 133. Sowing Divorce Impel Down's relationship with Marine. There are 3 days before the summit war kicks off. Hannibal saw the people stepping off the warship, and immediately greeted them and said, Aokiji Admiral, Shichibukai Alphad. Moran welcomes you to visit the large submarine prison Impel Down. I am the director of Impel Down. That's not right. I'm Hannibal, deputy director of Impel Down. After reacting, Hannibal said to himself with lingering fear, oh, I almost exposed my ambition. People around frantically rolled their eyes. Secretly Tukao said, you have been exposed, okay. Aokiji took a step forward and said, Deputy Director Hannibal, please ask Magellan for instructions. We are going to take Fire Fist Ace, who is imprisoned here, to Naval Headquarters Marineford, and visit you along the way. Impel Down. He came this time not only to bring Moran to visit, but Sengoku gave him another task halfway, and took Ace to Naval Headquarters by the way, to prepare in advance for the Whitebeard pirates. You don't need to ask Magellan for instructions. This is my prison and I decide. Let me take you down to the 6th floor of eternal hell. Oh, I have exposed my ambition again. Hannibal thought secretly. That guy Magellan has diarrhea again today, so today I can be the director again. Ha 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 hiccup. Thinking about it, Hannibal suddenly burst out laughing, and the people in Impel Down were no longer surprised, and thought to himself, this deputy director is probably thinking about how to get a seat again. And Marine and Moran brought the people who came looked at Hannibal with a look of foolishness, thinking, this guy is probably not a fool. Only Moran and Aokiji know this guy's character. Aokiji is because of a lot of contact. Moran is God, I have seen it from a perspective so I understand it. Aokiji asked again with some hesitation. Deputy Director Hannibal, we are here to hand over, do you really need to ask Magellan for instructions? Hearing Aokiji's question, Hannibal immediately said with displeasure, I am the Deputy Director of Impel Down. Director, what can Magellan ask for instructions about the toilet? I usually deal with all the big and small matters, and he can take care of them without asking for instructions. Quote. Let's go. Let's go directly to Eternal Hell on the 6th floor to hand over first, and then I will show you around Impel Down. After speaking, Hannibal took the lead and led the way. Moran and Aokiji led everyone to follow. When walking in, Moran suddenly said Aokiji next to him said, Aokiji is just as smart as you. Admiral has already done it. Aokiji looked at Moran inexplicably, but Moran didn't explain, and thought to himself, there is no one to see people speak human words, hell talk nonsense, only strength, this is not the material to be a marshal. Hannibal led everyone to a very bad elevator, this one is like the old one, there is only a square inside. Hannibal walked in first, turned around and said, we are going to take the elevator down to eternal hell, you all come in. After Moran walked in, he complained to Aokiji, Aokiji, you Marine, have you deducted Impel Down? Resources and materials. Look at how poor this Impel Down is, you don't even have a decent elevator, your Marine's heart is really dark. Aokiji said with a speechless face, the supplies of Marine and Impel Down are all in the world. What does the ZF have to do with our Marine? Moran hugged Hannibal, and said in a flickering way, Director Hannibal, you should pay attention to it. Although the supplies are directly distributed by the world's ZF, you should think about it. Who are they escorting? Hannibal smiled instantly when he heard Moran calling him director, and frowned after hearing Moran's words, and said with a look of sudden understanding, I said. ... Why did we Impel Down? There are so few supplies, so it's the fault of you guys who guard and steal yourself. Hannibal turned his head and glanced at Aokiji, and said to himself, no, this matter can't be delayed, I have to go to the world ZF to check immediately. Look at how many supplies have been embezzled by you shameless guys over the years. Aokiji looked at him speechlessly, and Hannibal, who was limped by Moran, shouted angrily, could it be that every time I come to deliver supplies, I don't give them to you? Do you want to read the list? Hannibal stopped walking, froze on the spot, and thought to himself, yes. The list is clearly written, and there is no possibility of deductions. Thinking of this, he felt that he was being tricked. No matter who Moran is, he roared angrily, I treat you like a brother, you be asterisk D actually lied to me. Begging for flowers. Moran thought of a group of transvestites here, and continued to fool. Hannibal the director is in this world, even a woman may be fake, let alone a mere piece of black and white. Aokiji doesn't even bother to explain now. He is quietly being a handsome man. He knows what Moran's mouth is. How powerful it is, just think that every time Marshal Sengoku contacts this guy, he has to change the table. Hannibal glanced at Aokiji and Moran for a while, and now he can't tell if Moran is lying to him, I can't tell if Aokiji is lying. Secretly thought. First deal with the matter here, and go to check the list. 0. During the time when several people chatted, the elevator has reached the 6th layer, eternal hell, was over. Hannibal said directly, let's go, I will take you to hand over Fire Fist Ace. After speaking, Hannibal didn't wait for everyone to speak, and took the lead to lead the way. He wanted to deal with the matter well, and then he went to investigate the supplies. As Hannibal someone new to be sent in. Why did you send Hannibal here this time? Is Magellan dead? Everyone just stepped into the eternal hell, and the pirates imprisoned in it thought it was someone who was sent in again, and they immediately became agitated. Hearing Hannibal's response, they mocked again. This guy Hannibal is scared to pee again, right? Ha 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 ha. Hannibal was thinking about something just now, and when he came back to his senses and heard this, he immediately cursed. Shut up, you bunch of garbage from the sea, you are shouting, I will cut you off for a few days' grain. Hannibal, don't you forget that you were scared to pee when you first came here. Chapter 134. Tai Hanhan, Ace's Ignorance. Cracker was also imprisoned here. When he finally saw Moran behind Hannibal, he roared. It's Yushichibukai B ********D, Lousy will kill you sooner or later. Hearing others scolding himself, Moran stepped forward step by step, came to stand in front of Cracker's iron cage, and mocked. Hey. Isn't this Cracker? It seems that you are too boring to stay here. It's my fault for letting you stay so boring. How about this? I'll catch all of you big MOM pirates in another day, and let your family reunite, so that you won't be bored and spit shit out of your mouths. Quote. Moran looked at the few brothers and sisters inside with an expression of seeing how well I treat you. Katakuri just wants to kill Cracker now, scolding this guy is useless, they big MOM pirates now only have a strong mother. If Moran really wants to catch people, only one strong person is needed. Mom can grab whatever she wants when she stops her, and the most important thing on this guy's boat is the top powerhouse. Now 21 Cracker is going to provoke the opponent. Katakuri cursed inwardly. Cracker is really stupid. Katakuri thought of this, but seeing that Cracker still wanted to scold Moran, he directly reprimanded. Shut up, Cracker, don't you feel ashamed enough? Seeing that Cracker had stopped, Moran thought of another idea and said, how is Katakuri doing here? Do you need me to message your mother? Don't worry, I will never charge randomly, in one sentence, 1 billion Bailey just fine. Katakuri said blankly, I don't need you to find someone else. Cut. Boring. Seeing that this guy was not fooled, Moran walked back and asked, Hannibal Director Fire Fist Ace, where is this guy being held? When Hannibal heard Moran calling him director again, he immediately forgot all the unpleasantness and said, Brother Moran, come with me, this place is too big, I will take you there. It didn't take long for Hannibal to bring Moran to the front of Ace's iron cage. Moran saw Ace with his head down and couldn't see his face clearly, and there was a Murloc Blue fat man beside him. Moran came to the Murloc and taunted him. Fatty Blue, why are you here? Did you do something shameful and got arrested? When Jinbe heard this, he raised his head and saw that it was Moran, and immediately said angrily, if you can't speak, then don't speak. What do you mean doing something shameful? Am I like that? It's true that you are not that kind of person, but you are that kind of person at all. Moran was talking while watching Jinbe's Sichuan opera face changing. I thought to myself, it's quite interesting. Jinbe couldn't stand this guy, so he just lowered his head and ignored Moran. Seeing that this guy ignored him, Moran immediately lost interest in teasing him. He turned his head and looked at Ace next to him. The guy just raised his head when he heard the voice, and saw Moran in front of him asking, Moran, you were also arrested yet? Moran said speechlessly, do you think I've been arrested? I'm here to rescue you, how can you be happy? Ace's eyes lit up and he asked anxiously, really? Moran, are you really here to save me? I really appreciate you so much, When Aokiji heard this from behind, he panicked and said to himself, this is not good. He didn't expect that these two people who couldn't get along with each other actually knew each other, and cold sweat dripped down Aokiji's forehead. Moran looked at the incoherent Ace, and suddenly said, of course I lied to you, how could I put myself in danger just because I saved you? I thought to myself, I will blackmail people now to save you, and when I finish blackmailing, those people are thinking about whether to save you or not, so you can obediently be my tool to blackmail people. Speaking of this, Moran looked at Aokiji and said, Aokiji, sometimes I think you Marines are very stupid. Even if you kill Whitebeard, a new 4 emperors will appear in New World within a month, do you believe it? After listening to Moran's words, Aokiji finally felt relieved, and thought to himself, dealing with this guy requires not only strength, but also a strong heart. Please subscribe, ask for Wawa. Ask for a monthly pass. Ace looked like he had no love in his life, looking at this bad and shameless guy in front of him, he wanted to cry without tears. Both Ace and Aokiji bowed their heads at Moran's words, and Moran didn't say anything more. These people are not stupid, and they can think of the end by themselves. Because you are caught and will be executed publicly, according to Whitebeard's personality, he will definitely come to save you, and if he wants to save you, he will inevitably confront Marine, and an unprecedented war will break out at that time. Uchiha Itachi finished releasing the shuriken, and calmly stepped forward to persuade him. Master Moran is dying, please save him some face. In the elevator, Moran said with emotion, I told you a long time ago, you will have to pay for your arrogance and willfulness sooner or later, I didn't expect that I was really right. Moran explained speechlessly, it seems that you still don't understand the serious consequences of being caught. Ace has regained his calm expression and said, when I went to sea. I have put life and death aside, I am not afraid of death. Moran looked at this innocent Tai Han, and asked speechlessly, I know you are not afraid of death, but are other people, Whitebeard pirates, afraid of death? After Hannibal finished reading and signing the documents, Aokiji brought Ace out, and walked up to the upper floor with 587 in his custody. I don't want to visit this smelly and dark Impel Down, after you hand over quickly, let's go. Everyone was furious, and Ace with his teeth and claws attracted attention, but they didn't notice Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Madara, who were walking behind, secretly squatted down and put a shuriken in the corner. Without lighting, the shuriken on the ground cannot be found at all. Although Aokiji was puzzled, he didn't say much. He just wanted to get things done as soon as possible so that he could leave this guy sooner. Thinking of this, he went straight to Hannibal and said, Deputy Director Hannibal, we want to leave here sooner. You sign this document. Ace's expression changed and he asked, what do you mean by that? Ace suddenly exploded, and roared angrily, you bad-natured B******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** asterisk 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 D, B asterisk 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 D. They made a good sign before they came in. Uchiha Itachi can't talk nonsense after he comes in. As long as he speaks, no matter what he says, it means that the matter has been settled. Moran immediately understood what he said, stood up and said, Aokiji, hand over to them. Is it over? Chapter 135. The two Uchiha lurking in Impel Down. Is there no way for Moran to avoid the outbreak of war? Ace, who came back to his senses, asked with a pale face. He was indeed frightened by what Moran said. If it was true what Moran said, then because of his willfulness this time, he might kill countless irrelevant people. Unless you die now, or Whitebeard suddenly dies suddenly, it is impossible to avoid the outbreak of war. Moran added in his mind, or I will rescue you now. But it is impossible for Moran to do this, he will not give up his own interests just because of someone he has known for a few days. Ace bowed his head when he heard this, and tears flowed down his face, secretly blaming himself and regretting. On the first floor of the sea, Aokiji said to Hanyable, Deputy Director Hanyable, you don't have to send it, we can go out by ourselves. Then why don't you walk slowly? You are welcome to visit next time. I'll go back first. Hanyable walked back quickly after finishing speaking. Don't forget about supplies. After everyone came to the boat, Aokiji looked at Moran and asked, Impel Down also took you to sea, can we go to naval headquarters now? Moran said indifferently. Then you can arrange it yourself. Set sail, target naval headquarters Marineford. It's Aokiji Admiral. After seeing Moran move out of the deck chair and lie down directly, Aokiji breathed a sigh of relief for no reason, but what he didn't know was that Impel went down the 6th floor of the Eternal Hell, and at this time the two, shuriken, in the corner suddenly with a poof. It turned into a cloud of smoke, and when the smoke slowly dissipated, two people appeared at the original position of the shuriken. They looked at each other and entered Jinbe's cell without saying a word. When Jinbe saw the two people who came in, he was about to exclaim, but Uchiha Itachi covered his mouth with his hand and made a gesture of silence with his mouth. Jinbe nodded in a second without struggling. Seeing that he was not struggling, Uchiha Itachi let go of his hand and whispered, "We need to stay here for a few days, you just pretend we don't exist, understand? In my opinion, it can be killed directly, so as to avoid any troubles when it is found out." Uchiha Madara interjected with a blank expression on the side. Jinbei's face turned pale when he heard this, a drop of cold sweat dripped down, and he said quickly, "I won't talk too much, you guys don't mess around." This guy exudes a vicious energy all over his body. If he doesn't express his opinion, Jinbe has no doubt that he will kill himself. Uchiha Itachi said helplessly, "Madara, don't kill him easily, it's more convenient for us to keep him hidden, and this guy also knows Master Moran. Cooperate well with us these few days, if you perform well, how about taking one with you when you go out?" Uchiha Itachi thought they couldn't move when they turned into shurikens, so he wanted to find a helper, and this guy was just right. When Jinbe heard that he was able to go out, he immediately agreed. "No problem, how you want me to cooperate? I will cooperate like this, there is no problem." Uchiha Itachi nodded with satisfaction. Their plan is also very simple. When someone comes, they will turn into shurikens and hide them. It is a provocative act to pass others, and they have brought enough food, they will not have any problem staying for 10 days and half a month, and when Blackbeard comes down, just kill him and finish the job. This is Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Madara arranged by Moran. Moran doesn't want Blackbeard to come out of Impel Down alive, because New World doesn't need too many strong men. This time Whitebeard probably won't be able to go back. Moran has already targeted his territory, yes, so I arranged for the two of them to come in and stay here first, waiting for the arrival of the Blackbeard pirates, and preparing to give him a surprise. It should be said to be a shock. 5:30 p.m. near Marineford. A huge warship is sailing quickly on the sea, because it is sailing in the triangular sea area of Marineford, Impel Down, and Eni's lobby. These three island-like places have been transformed into a route by the world ZF, and the flow of seawater has been changed into triangular. The seawater flows to these three islands respectively, forming a Uzumaki that has been turning in circles, so the sailing speed here is very fast, and it has only passed half a day and is now close to naval headquarters. A soldier trotted to Aokiji and said, "Report to Aokiji Admiral, we are not far from Marineford, please instruct." Seeking flowers 0. Hearing this, Aokiji stood up directly, and as expected, he could see the shadow of Marineford from a distance, and immediately ordered, "Get ready to approach the port and land." It's Aokiji Admiral. On the deck of the warship, Moran was lying on a deck chair, with a small tornado lying on his body, cuddled in Sao Lan's arms, sleeping soundly. Snapped. Moran patted the PG of Tornado and said, "We've arrived, Tornado, come down for me, do you hear me?" Tornado covered his PG and raised his head to look at Moran with a mask on his face. His eyes blinked, it was a cute fowl. "Is there any?" Moran leaned forward and said, "Hey. Oh. Although the tornado was still in the circle, he was still happy to be kissed, left Moran's arms, and began to float in the air and fly around. Aokiji walked over and saw that Moran was still lying down, and immediately said angrily, "We've arrived at naval headquarters, do you need me to take you in with 8 sedan chairs?" Aokiji complained secretly in his heart. This guy is simply more salty than himself. I really don't know how his strength has reached such a level at such a young age. Moran glanced at him and said, "If you Marines like to have this kind of welcome ceremony, then I don't mind." Moran saw that Aokiji turned his head away in anger, so he could only stand up and follow him off the warship. At this time, a beautiful woman with a sassy light pink hair parted in the middle, wearing purple lens sunglasses and a cigarette dangling from her mouth, already standing at the port waiting for them. Moran thought to himself, it won't be this little girl again, come to receive them. Welcome back Aokiji Admiral, and you be *********** D Shichibukai. Hina saw Aokiji come down to welcome, and saw Moran curse directly. Moran was furious when he heard this. How could he suffer such a disadvantage? As the saying goes, a good man doesn't move his hands. Clap. Moran quickly turned into lightning, came behind Hina in an instant, and slammed down on her PG fiercely. Snapped. After twitching it, Moran poked in his heart and thought, it feels so good after not seeing it for a year or two. Chapter 136. Hina bullied by Moran. Hina was stunned by the pumping, and was stunned and stiff in place. When she realized that she was blushing, with smoke from her head, she turned around and shouted, "You Shichibukai B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** looked at the long legs that were kicking towards his crotch. Although he knew it was impossible to be kicked by her, his heart tightened for no reason. Secretly said, "This is not punishable." Boom. The leg kicked by Hina was firmly held by Moran's hand. Aokiji was speechless when he saw Hina's action, and rushed up like a three-legged cat. Isn't that delivering food to him? UB asterisk 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 D. Let go of Hina, Hina will fight you one-on-one. Hina shouted with embarrassment and anger when she couldn't take back the kicked leg, her face turning blue and then pale. Not only did Moran not let go, he even raised her legs higher and higher. Fortunately, she wasn't wearing any skirts or anything like that, otherwise she would have disappeared. Moran felt that grabbing legs was boring, so he quickly moved to Hina's side, hugged her waist tightly and threatened, "If you dare to move around, I'll throw you in the crowded place of naval headquarters." Hina was obviously frightened when she heard this. She no longer had a heroic look, but a look that had been spoiled and had nothing to love. Even though Moran put her arms around her waist, she dared not resist. Seeing this scene, Long Wan felt as if the jar of vinegar had been overturned, gritted his teeth and looked at the other children and asked, "This guy is messing around again, don't you bother with him." Acedus said calmly, "This guy has such a personality, he always flirts with pretty girls when he sees them, how can we control him?" She used to be jealous when she saw Moran teasing others, but she got used to it gradually. This guy's character is so out of control. That's right. This guy can't be controlled, you have to learn to get used to Tornado in the future. Hearing Acedus' words, several of them were convinced and persuaded one after another. While the few people were chatting for a while, Moran had already walked a distance after Hina, and the few people quickly followed without talking. Damn, who is that guy? Embracing Colonel Hina. When a group of marine soldiers saw their goddess being carried away by others, they all looked like they were going to eat Moran. An emperor came out and explained, "That is 7 warlords of the sea Alfad Moran, Aokiji Admiral is going to pick him up." Everyone looked at Didi and asked, "Then what is his relationship with Colonel Hina?" I said, "I heard it too." When Alfad Moran came to naval headquarters for the first time, Colonel Hina received him, and the two fell in love with each other for a long time. Colonel Hina deeply I fell in love with him, but Alfad Moran is a pirate, and the two had no choice but to separate in the end, but Colonel Hina never forgot about him, and he hasn't had a boyfriend until now. Damn, give me back my goddess. A soldier wanted to trouble Moran, but was stopped by the person next to him and persuaded him, "That man is a powerful Shichibukai, are you going to die?" A soldier said with emotion, "It's a pity that Colonel Hina actually likes a pirate, if only he likes me." Another soldier taunted, "Brother, wash up and sleep quickly, there is everything in the dream." Damn it. These bastards. Hina cursed secretly when she heard the people around her talking about all kinds of outrageous versions of the story. UB ********** D has hugged her for so long, can you let go of Hina? This guy not only put his arms around her waist, but also kept eating her tofu. Hina could only helplessly curse Moran in her heart. Snapped. Moran took another twitch before letting her go, and then a person whose body is tense because of nervousness is not fun at all, it's hard. Moran thought to himself. A-hole. Not long after, Aokiji took Moran and others, stopped in front of a house and asked, "What do you think of this house?" Hina saw Moran laughing. Hee. Suddenly, her heart tightened for no reason, and she thought to herself, "This guy is not good, so what kind of bad idea is he thinking?" Hina, who was whipped again, could only stomp and curse on the spot, but she didn't dare to fight Moran again, for she was afraid that Moran would seize the opportunity to anoint her again. Thinking of this, Moran couldn't help but laughed, hey. Ask for a subscription, ask for a flower, ask for a monthly pass. Aokiji has already taken Ace to be imprisoned, Moran can only look at Hina and ask, "Colonel Hina, where do we live here?" "Wow, what a beautiful house, Moran, let's live here," he said excitedly after seeing the beautiful house and resurrected with blood. Just when Hina didn't know what to do, Aokiji came back and said, "I can arrange a place for you, but you can't cause damage there, because all the people living there are Marine's family members. Do you think it's appropriate for us to help you without even arranging a place to live?" Moran added in his heart, "If you don't arrange a place for Lousy, Lousy will climb the wall of your house in the middle of the night, and then what will happen? It's not my fault." Tornado suddenly floated behind Moran, wrapped his arms around his neck and hung on it, and whispered in his ear, "Moran, we all want to live on the boat, can we not live in the house they arranged?" Moran turned his head to look at the other people, and seeing that they all nodded, he said, "Then let's live here." Aokiji also thought of this, so he dared to make a proposal to arrange a residence for him. He had the most contact with Moran 283, and knew that although this guy was bad, he still had a bottom line. Moran waved his hand and said, Anne, don't forget where I grew up, take us there quickly. There are relatively few people around this house, and no one will disturb you at ordinary times, so it's just right for you to live here." Hearing this, Long Wan turned his head and glanced at the people behind him, shook his head to indicate that he hadn't succeeded, and then lay down on Moran's back in a daze. Hina said angrily, "Of course you live on your own boat, do you still want Marine to arrange a place for you to live?" Hey, they often run on the sea and are used to living on a boat. Moran also knows that they are not used to being here, but they cannot sail for a lifetime, so he still refuses. "No. You have to get used to living on land, we can't spend our whole life at sea, can we?" Chapter 137. The arrogant Blackbeard teach gets slapped in the face. Morning of the next day, at the temporary residence of the Wanjian pirates, everyone has already woken up, chatting in the living room in twos and threes. Da. There was a sound of high-heeled footsteps, and everyone looked at the door, only to see Hina stepping on her high heels, as if the ground had a grudge against her, making a rattling noise. "Marshal Sengoku asked you to go to a meeting." Hina turned around and left after saying that, regardless of whether Moran heard what she said. After Hina walked away, Moran looked at Uchiha Madara and asked, "Madara, can you two get in touch with the main body in Impel Down?" Uchiha Madara shook his head and said, "No, unless the current remove the shadow clone, let the avatar pass the memory with it, otherwise there is no way to contact the main body. I don't know if those two guys have been discovered. It would be difficult to fight with the Impel Down person in advance, I hope not be discovered." Moran thought to himself. Moran Marine asked you to go to a meeting, won't you go? Arturia asked, looking at Moran, who had buried herself in the sofa and didn't seem to get up at all. Moran said indifferently, "It's all a bunch of nonsense, it doesn't matter whether you go to 203, and you don't want to move in the morning." After Hina went out, she walked a certain distance, and looked back quietly behind her. No one was directly stunned. Stop, where is the man with a black question mark on his face? Hina stomped her feet angrily on the spot, and could only walk back without a minister. At this time, in the Shichibukai conference room, there were only 2 vacant seats left on a rectangular table, except for Jinbe, who didn't come, and Moran was missing. Boom. Hey, it's been half an hour and he still hasn't come. Isn't this guy too airy? Blackbeard said arrogantly, putting his feet on the table. Hey you'd better not talk too much, or he will kill you. Gecko Moria saw that someone was dissatisfied with Moran, so he jumped out to provoke discord. He wished that Blackbeard would fight Moran, but I haven't forgotten that Moran took his autumn water away. Thief, ha 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 ha. Blackbeard laughed arrogantly and said, only the weak are afraid of this guy, and I'm not an example. At this moment, Hina pushed Moran to the door of the meeting room. That's right. Hina kept pushing CBEB behind. Moran still walked slowly with his eyes squinted, and when he heard Blackbeard's arrogant words, Moran raised his foot and kicked towards the door. Bang! The door of the conference room was kicked away, and it just flew towards Blackbeard Tiki, who immediately punched the flying door. Boom! Looking at the torn apart door, before Blackbeard could say anything, Marshal Sengoku jumped up and roared, "You be asterisk 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 D, you can't open the door." Moran didn't speak immediately, but came to his place to do the rest, yawned, and said listlessly, "I didn't wake up and just heard a sound of beating. I saw the door as a person and couldn't help kicking it. It turned out that it was the door and not the speaker. Thief, ha 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 ha. Lousy will not show mercy when we meet Alphad Moran in New World in the future, and your crew member Lousy will take him in at that time." Blackbeard said arrogantly, with an expression that Lousy has already eaten you. Moran didn't speak but took out a phone bug. He knew that all the Blackbeard pirates had come to naval headquarters. Boo, 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 boo. Just when everyone was full of doubts, the phone was connected, and Acid's lazy voice came from the phone bug. "Moran, what's the matter with you calling?" Moran said blankly, "Find out the people from the Blackbeard pirates at naval headquarters, kill all 10 and leave none behind." Acid's excited voice came from the phone bug. "Moran, I won't be sleepy if you say this, I will take people to kill them right away." Chapter 138. A meteorite over 100 meters hit naval headquarters. Shichibukai meeting room. At this time, the house that was temporarily used as Shichibukai's meeting room was in ruins, and Sengoku remained in the Buddha form, staring at Moran and waiting for his reply. Hearing Sengoku's threat, Crane Vice Admiral thought to himself, not good. Alphad Moran doesn't care about the Shichibukai title, and he doesn't care if Marine catches him, because Marine can't catch him at all. Hearing Sengoku's threat, Moran took out the phone bug again. Everyone thought he was going to call to tell people to stop, but Moran smashed the phone bug right away. Bump. Then he said in a very unbeatable tone, "Oh. The phone bug is broken." Seeing Moran crushing the phone bug, Sengoku asked with a gloomy face, "Alphad Moran, do you think that you are already invincible?" After speaking, he walked towards 810. Moran step by step, raised his door-like palm, and slapped it down with a slap. A golden shock wave appeared on his palm and blasted towards Moran. Moran said calmly, "Although I'm not invincible, I'm not someone you can threaten casually." Moran's eyes flashed red after he finished speaking. The Conqueror's Haki was fully opened, and the two-color Haki surrounded the black knife autumn water. The surrounding ground couldn't bear Moran's momentum. After the spider web split, the knife slashed fiercely on the falling huge palm. Boom. Moran's slash and Sengoku's shock wave collided a few meters apart in stalemate for a while, then there was a loud bang, and a wave of black and gold rushed out centered on the two of them. Pieces of houses were knocked down one after another by the shock waves, and a large cloud of dust was thrown up, making it impossible to see the two people colliding inside. Search. The Shichibukai who were watching the show calmly just now, and the Marine who was in the conference room just now, were all disheveled and rushed out of the dust in a mess. Shishishek. The Whitebeard pirates haven't arrived yet, but these two monsters fought first. Today is really not in vain. Doflamingo, who was afraid that the world would not be chaotic, looked excitedly at the two people in the collision center. Hawkeye looked at the two people who collided and muttered, "This guy has become a lot stronger again, it seems that I still need to work hard." He felt the pressure on Moran, not only in terms of strength, but also in terms of Moran's growth rate. Although Moran's swordsmanship was still a little behind him, his overall strength had surpassed him by a lot, just like the red-haired Shanks. Hawkeye thought secretly. Crane Vice Admiral looked at a large area of collapsed houses around him, his face gradually darkened. He yelled at Sengoku in the center of the dust. "Sengoku, are you two planning to demolish naval headquarters?" Marine, who had just rushed over when he heard the explosion, and Vice Admiral, who heard the roar of the crane, thought secretly in their hearts, what happened? How could they calmly face this situation no matter what they encountered? Is Crane Vice Admiral so angry? Crane Vice Admiral, what's the matter with this ruin? Marine, who rushed over, saw the collapsed houses around him, and stammered. Crane Vice Admiral said unhappily, "The old guy Sengoku is so mad, he's fighting with Shichibukai Alphad Moran." What? Crane Vice Admiral ignored these shocked Marines, but looked at the ghost spider Vice Admiral and asked, Where did the three of them go? Kuzan, are you just here to take a look after they've been beaten like this? Vice Admiral, the Ghost Spider, said solemnly, the port is no better than here. The members of the Blackbeard pirates are already dead and wounded, and almost none of them are complete. Vice Admiral Garp go to the port with the admirals to stop them. Blackbeard originally wanted to stay and watch the show, but he couldn't calm down when he heard the news. He didn't expect that his pirate group would be beaten up like this in just a few minutes, so he hurried away towards the port. When the dust dissipated, everyone finally saw Sengoku and Moran clearly. They were not fighting at this moment, but were standing in the ruins 10 meters apart. There was a 10-meter deep pit between the two of them. The aftermath of the collision was blasted out. Sengoku glanced around and asked with a dark face, do you want to stay in Impel Down when you fight at naval headquarters? Moran said mockingly, I want to go in and sit around, but it's a pity that you Marines don't have the ability. Moran glanced at Blackbeard who was running. Green energy came out of his body and floated in the air. The green energy on Moran's body in the air was getting more and more abundant. He raised his hand and pulled it down with all his strength. Sengoku looked inexplicably. Moran looked at Sengoku, who was full of black question marks, and said, Marshal mentally handicapped, I won't play with you anymore. I'll give you a big gift before I leave, you have to accept it. Otherwise, Marineford will lose terrible. Clap. After Moran finished speaking, he turned into a thunderbolt. A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. Moran was gone in an instant, and the fast Sengoku stared straight. Sengoku was still thinking about what Moran said before he left, but Suru Vice Admiral leaned over and said, Sengoku, you are impulsive this time. Fu. Just as Crane Vice Admiral finished speaking, he heard a sound of air rubbing, and everyone present raised their heads to look at the sky. Everyone was in a cold sweat, and saw a huge meteorite hundreds of meters high, braving fire and heading towards the sky. Naval headquarters fell. Alphad Moran, you bloody B******************. D. Sengoku roared furiously, the voice rolled like Shenlei, and spread far and far. Sengoku's anger can't solve the problem. The most important thing now is how to solve the meteorite, not the incompetent roar. Crane Vice Admiral looked at Sengoku who had lost his mind and persuaded. Sengoku regained his senses, looked at the Shichibukai and said, you guys came here to help deal with this meteorite, it will do no one any good if it really lands on Marineford. This meteorite was pulled down by Moran with all his strength. Sengoku can smash this meteorite, but it will still fall down if broken, so the best way is to split it into a dozen pieces and catch it. After Sengoku 5.1 quickly explained the plan to several Shichibukai, Hawkeye drew his black sword and soared into the sky. Brush. Swipe. Hawkeye waved the black knife continuously in the air at a speed invisible to the naked eye when Hawkeye landed. Rumble. With a loud bang, the meteorite was divided into 10 pieces about 10 meters in size, and everyone rushed to the sky to intercept the falling meteorite pieces. Rumble. After the meteorites were intercepted by the crowd, they were thrown on the ground, but due to insufficient manpower, 2 pieces still fell on the ground, creating 2 huge deep pits. Sengoku sat on a meteorite with a livid face, not knowing what he was thinking, and no one dared to scold him at this moment. Chapter 139. Senju Hashirama hits 4 with full firepower. Naval Headquarters Marineford Port. At this time, the sea surface of the port had been frozen, and it was white at a glance. Only 2 members of the Blackbeard pirate group were left lying on the boat. Except for the drug Q and Giza's badgers, everyone else on the boat was dead. Although the 2 were still alive, they were also seriously injured. Giza's badgers had an arm cut off, and there was a long gash in the chest of Poison Q. Giza's badgers had lost too much blood and passed out. Poison Q was drugging himself, saving himself first before thinking of saving others. This is the reality on the Blackbeard pirates. The 2 Uchihas are watching the play. They can't do anything because they are just shadow clone. If they are seriously injured, they will disappear into smoke and they don't know what Moran is thinking, so they can only watch from the sidelines. Bang bang bang. Boom boom boom. There are 8 people fighting on the ice, and the sound of various collisions and explosions can be heard endlessly. Senju Hashirama is fighting Garp back and forth, and the other 3 women are fighting Marine Admiral. Although they have the upper hand, they cannot be separated in a short time burden. Senju Hashirama is covered in blue chakra, and Garp is covered in black, and the 2 are competing for physical skills. Bump. In fact, to put it bluntly, it was a fight. You punched me and I punched you. For a while, the 2 fought fiercely, and Garp's, Senju Hashirama, who was all stiff was recovering so quickly. Bump. The 2 punched each other again, both of them were shocked by the recoil and slid back a distance of more than 10 meters before they stabilized their bodies. Garp's body was completely dark, unable to see the expression on his face. He asked, are all the people in your pirate group as strong as you? Garp was a little scared. He couldn't take down anyone who came out at random. Aokiji and the others were also crushed and beaten. The strength of the 3 women definitely reached the level of this guy in front of him. He only knew about this pirate before. There are many strong people in the group, but I didn't expect that all of them are so strong. Even the former Rocks pirate group didn't have so many top-level strong people. Garp thought secretly in his heart. Moran didn't say that you can't reveal your strength, so Senju Hashirama directly showed a big smile and said, the combat members are all about the same strength, and you Marines are also quite strong. By the way, your body is really hard, you have been punched so many times by me, and you don't have any scars. Senju Hashirama sighed with emotion. You guys are not the same, you can't see any injuries on your body. After Garp finished speaking, He was secretly shocked. If the combat members are all such strong men, then wouldn't there be 7 or 8 such strong men in the 10,000 Swords Pirates? Senju Hashirama said with a serious face. That's the end of the nonsense, but we still have tasks to do. After all, the members of the Blackbeard pirates are not dead yet. After Senju Hashirama finished speaking, he turned his head and shouted. I will stop them alone. You go and kill all the members of the Blackbeard pirates. We are finishing the task separately. Number 3. After the 3 women replied, they retreated, not to entangle with the 3 admirals anymore. Aokiji and the 3 saw the 3 women and retreated to the side to wait for Senju Hashirama. They did not catch up, but came to Garp. It's so scary. But you bragging too much, haven't you? Yellow Monkey said with a wretched expression. Garp said solemnly. Don't take it lightly. None of this group of people is a simple guy, and he hasn't used his abilities until now. According to Marine's information, although this guy has relatively few shots, he is a real capable person. Sage Art would style true several thousand hands. Senju Hashirama didn't answer them, but clapped his hands and shouted. Suddenly, an invisible natural energy gathered around him, eye shadows appeared around his eyes, and a huge Guanyin statue with countless giant arms broke through the ice slowly. It slowly emerged, when the huge Avalokitesfera statue with a height of thousands of meters fully emerged. Senju Hashirama's secret channel. Armament hockey covered, and thousands of huge arms were covered by armament hockey in an instant. After Moran went to Sky Island, he became fat in an instant. He has added all the summoned people, hockey, to high level, and even the tornado, which is not very useful, has been added to high level. Money willful haha. Garp and the others looked at the huge Avalokitesfera statue that was thousands of meters high, gulped their saliva and dripped cold sweat from their foreheads. Garp muttered, this big guy is a bit tricky. Senju Hashirama also kindly reminded, I'm going to FK. Garp. Turning Buddha on the top. Senju Hashirama manipulated the entire true several thousand hands, putting all the weight on the fist to hit Garp and the others. Standing on the ice, Garp and the others felt a slight sinking in their hearts when they saw the fists falling from the sky, but they still rose to meet the fists from the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Garp covered hockey all over, and waved a pair of iron fists in front of him. He smashed his huge arms with each punch. At the beginning, he could catch all of them, but there were countless fists all over the sky, and the speed was getting faster and faster. At the back, Garp and the others were covered in hockey and were passively beaten. They couldn't hold back 1, 2, 3, but they couldn't stop 4, 5, and 6. Quote exclamation mark quote. Boom, boom, stock. For a while, there was a constant rumble, and the ice surface began to collapse in a large area. Acedus and the others saw Garp and Admiral trapped under the huge Guanyin statue, knew how, and rushed directly to the Blackbeard pirates without delay. The remaining 2 people. Poison Q was dealing with his broken arm, and Giza's Badgers, who woke up from the pain, exclaimed, everyone is so strong, what is going on with these guys? Hey, hello. Poison Q and the others are rushing over. Poison Q was lowering his head to deal with him and couldn't see his arms. Giza's Badgers exclaimed when he saw the 3 women rushing over. Pat. Poison Q heard the words of Giza's Badgers, just raised his head and saw the 3 women who landed on the boat, and asked with an ugly face, can you tell us why you want to kill us? Even if we die, let us die to understand, right? Acedus mocked. Weak people don't deserve to know so much. You just need to know who killed you. Remember that we are members of the 10,000 Swords Pirates. Chapter 140. Blackbeard was stabbed 99 and 81 times. After Acedus finished speaking, he walked towards Poison Q step by step, raised the knife in his hand and slashed down. Don't look at her so beautiful, she is much more ruthless than a man. Boom, boom. When Acedus returned to the spot, he only heard 2 falls to the ground. After dealing with the 2, the tornado floated in the air and asked, let's continue to fight with Marine Admiral, or report first, mission completed something. Acedus said excitedly, of course we fought first, and it's not too late to report after a fight. Arturia thought for a while, but said, Moran went to the meeting alone. I heard an explosion inside the island just now. I was a little worried that something happened to him. I went to find Moran and you can play by yourself. After Arturia finished speaking, she flashed a few times and disappeared without a trace. Looking at the disappearing Arturia, Tornado said worriedly, I'm also a little worried about Moran, why don't we go find Moran too? But Acedus analyzed. The strong people in naval headquarters are all here. Except for Sengoku, there are only a few weak and poor Shichibukai left. Do you think they can make Moran and Alhau as Toria? Acedus added in his heart. Moreover, this family is so afraid of death, how could they let themselves fall into trouble? Acedus once talked with Moran about his strength. Moran once said that as long as he has money in his hand, it is useless to have many strong men. She knows that Moran still has tens of billions of Baileys in his hand, so he is now not at all worried about Moran's safety. Although Tornado was still a little worried, but was moved by Acedus, the 2 of them returned to the ice, looking at half of the sunken ice, speechless. They went for a while and hit this degree. I saw Garp and Marine 3 admirals. They were all wet at this time. Garp was okay, but the 3 admirals looked a bit embarrassed, lying on a relatively large ice block. They were directly captured by Senju Hashirama was hammered into the sea abruptly. Aokiji froze while being beaten. He couldn't freeze at all. Luckily Garp fished them out, otherwise they would have drowned today. Aokiji's ability is only to freeze the sea at the moment of falling into the sea. He is not afraid of sea water, but if he is fast enough, he will not be able to use his ability if the water is flooded to a certain extent. Aokiji sighed weakly. These guys are all perverts, it doesn't matter if they are strong, but their abilities are so outrageous. Boom. Acedus jumped over and landed on a larger block of ice not far from them and asked, "Hey. Can you still fight? If not, we will leave." Aokiji said with a speechless face. "Everyone has been killed by you, why should we fight? They came here to save Blackbeard's people, so as not to cause Shichibukai conflicts, but they didn't expect the people of Wanjian pirates to be so strong, and the 4 of them failed to save Blackbeard pirates." When Acedus heard that they didn't want to fight, he said with a disappointed face, "You are too boring, if you don't fight, we will leave, I hope we will be enemies next time we meet, then I don't care if you want to willing to fight." She was actually very helpless, she couldn't kill Marine's people without Moran talking, so as not to cause trouble for Moran, this guy is very afraid of trouble. Acedus thought secretly in his heart. Boom. Acedus jumped up and trampled the ice into pieces, the person landed on the port, the tornado also floated to the port, Senju Hashirama also returned to the port to join a few people, and then walked to the interior of the island. At this moment, Moran had caught up with Blackbeard and was blocking his way. Blackbeard looked at Moran, who was covered in blue lightning, and asked with an ugly face, "What do you want, B**************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************te I want your dog's life, how about you give it to me?" Blackbeard suddenly said with a ferocious face. "Since you want to die so much, then I'll make it happen for you." Dark water. Blackbeard's palm was emitting a cloud of black smoke, and it was circling around the palm like a windmill, aiming at Moran to suck him in. Moran pretended to be sucked by Blackbeard, and shouted in panic, "What's going on?" Pat. After Blackbeard sucked Moran over and grabbed his neck, he said arrogantly, "Today I will show you the strongest ability I have been waiting for 20 years, the ability of Logia Dark Fruit." Thief ha 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 ha. Puff. Blackbeard's laughter stopped abruptly, and he lowered his head to look at the knife on his chest with a stiff neck. At this moment, Moran, who was grabbed by his neck, suddenly said slowly, "Blackbeard, you really have a big problem with us, so I'll play it casually, you've been fooled. Ask for flowers. Break off children and grandchildren." After Moran finished speaking, his feet quickly turned black. He was about 1 meter shorter than Blackbeard. At this time, he was held in the air by Blackbeard, and he kicked Blackbeard's crotch fiercely. Bump. What? Blackbeard was kicked and flew upside down, kicked up a cloud of dust on the ground, his expression was gradually distorted, his hands were covering his crotch, his body curled up, and he was rolling around on the ground like a pig screaming. We can see Spandam's pain at this time. Eventually, lying on the ground moaning continuously. Clap. When the black smoke dissipated, only Moran was left with a dazed face fluttering in the wind. Moran was just about to raise the black knife and send him back to the west with the last knife, when suddenly a large cloud of black smoke came out of Blackbeard's body, enveloping both of them. Bang bang bang. Finally unable to hold back, he closed his eyes and passed out. Ever since Blackbeard lay down, he hasn't stood up and has been rolling on the ground in pain. He won't be like Ace, who waited for him to absorb the damage with his abilities before hitting him. That's a foolish behavior. Asking for subscription, asking for flowers, asking for monthly ticket B. After stepping on a few more feet and feeling a little bored, Moran began to use Blackbeard to practice swordsmanship, and then Blackbeard knew what life would be better than death. Then there was only the scream of Blackbeard, and the whistling of Moran wielding the black knife and autumn water. Moran wielded the black knife Chushui at a speed invisible to the naked eye, one after another, avoiding vital points, a total of 99 and 81 cuts, Blackbeard was covered in blood. Moran stomped down 1 foot after another, he didn't care what Blackbeard said, in short, he said that killing you is killing you. Swipe, swipe, swipe. After regaining his senses, Moran secretly sighed in his heart. He ran away all of this, and pretended to be unconscious. The old Jinbe is indeed the old Jinbe. Moran would not foolishly wait for him to recover, and instantly came to Blackbeard's side in the form of lightning, raised his foot and stomped it down hard. Bump, 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 ah, it hurts me, UB asterisk 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 D. Bang bang bang, 0. There was darkness all around. Moran hurriedly opened his mouth. Observation Hawkeye swept over, but the figure of Blackbeard was still there. Chapter 141, sending Sengoku a big gift before leaving. As soon as Arturia came over, she saw Moran in a daze alone, not knowing what to think, with a bad face. Arturia stepped forward and asked, "Moran, are you okay?" Moran said casually to Kaido, "It's okay, what can I do?" Did something happen inside the island just now? Arturia heard just now that there was an explosion inside the island, and she could hear it even at the port. Moran waved his hand and said, "It's nothing, just bumped into Marshal Sengoku, but we probably won't be able to stay here any longer." Arturia asked suspiciously, "Is it because of the Blackbeard pirates?" Moran said indignantly, "This ugly guy actually wants to subdue you, and even wants to threaten me." Arturia smiled and said, "Don't be angry, Moran, we have already wiped out his pirate group. Did Blackbeard run away?" Hearing Blackbeard, Moran's face turned black. That guy pretended to be unconscious and he ran away, but don't worry, we still have people waiting for him in Impel Down. In fact, what made him angry was not any threats, but Blackbeard's delusional attempt to subdue his wives. 21, this is unbearable. Blackbeard's crew was killed by them, he should want to go to Impel Down now, and subdue the pirates in eternal hell. Thinking of this, Moran said, Let's go to the port to meet them, and then go to wait near Impel Down. When there is chaos inside Impel Down, we just wait outside. Seeing Moran walking ahead after finishing speaking, Arturia trotted up and asked, Moran, we are not participating in the Whitebeard pirates, are we going to fight with Marine? Moran said without turning his head, we dealt with Blackbeard first, and it's okay to participate when we return from the war. The Impel Down chaos was before the war. That's what I said, but Moran is not sure, after all, because of his existence, many plots have been ruined by him. Before Moran took Arturia far, he ran into Acedus and the others who were rushing over. They wanted to come to Moran without any opponents, but they happened to run into each other halfway. Moran, are you back from the meeting? Tornado asked as soon as he saw Moran, hanging on his neck. Moran wanted to tear her off, but the little girl grabbed his neck firmly, pouted and looked at him with an expression that if you dare to tear me off, I'll cry for you. Moran had no choice but to walk ahead with her in his arms, and said to the people behind him without looking back, I have fallen out with Marine, we can't stay here any longer, let's go back to the boat and set sail. It's the captain. On the way back, Acedus' eyes suddenly lit up, and he said excitedly, Moran, you fell out with Marine, so we can fight Marine from now on. In the future, not only can you fight Marines, but you won't have any problems killing them. After finishing speaking, Moran thought to himself, after all, kindness to the enemy is cruelty to oneself. Acedus clenched his fists, his eyes glowed and he said excitedly, so I don't have to keep my hands anymore. Ever since she came to this world, she has been restraining herself for Moran. Except for a few battles with the four emperors, the other battles are all up to the point, and she has never complained, but her heart is still very eager to be like before. The same, you can go all out to fight. Moran arrived at the port not long after he led the crowd, and saw that the sea in the port was full of large and small ice blocks, and said to Tornado, Tornado came down to work, the sea is full of ice blocks, and the warship we are on can't help sailing. Obviously you can do it yourself, but let me do it. Tornado finished speaking angrily with a pouted mouth, and then obediently flew out to deal with the surface of the sea. The tornado flew out and floated in the air, using the sea as a punching bag, waving its two little hands indiscriminately. Rumble, rumble, the sea suddenly turned upside down, as if it was going to turn the sea upside down, and after a while, a route without ice was cleared in front of the pirate ship. Call out. A golden flash flashed across the sky, and when it landed on the port, Kizaru's body slowly emerged. It turned out that he heard the explosion in the port and rushed over to check it out. Seeing that the Wanjian pirates were going away, he whispered. It's really nerve-wracking to have to face them again in the future. It's so scary. Kizaru is not afraid of the four emperors' pirates, if he can't beat him, he can run away, but if the Wanjian pirates can't beat it, let alone, they can't run away. Moran also saw Kizaru on the warship, jumped to the top of the mast and stood firmly on it, the black knife Chushui suddenly appeared in his hand, Moran's eyes flashed red Conqueror's Haki, armament Haki were all attached to the knife, and the black knife was raised above his head. Slashing immortals with one sword. With all his strength, he slashed fiercely towards the port, and a half-moon-shaped slash of tens of meters quickly flew towards the port. Kizaru looked at the slashing blows with the momentum of the abduction, getting closer and closer, and a drop of cold sweat flowed down. Now he is alone here, so he can only bite the bullet. 8-foot Chong Guyu. Kizaru directly turned into a ray of light and rushed to the sky, standing in the sky. Like a golden sun, the dazzling light illuminates the entire sky. 977. Whoosh. Dazzling beams of light fell like rain in the direction of Moran's slash. Boom. Rumbling. Boom. Rumbling. However, the light beam only consumed the first half of the slashes, and the lower half of the slashes continued unabated, directly slashing at naval headquarters, face. Boom. Rumbling. The word, Marine, directly in front of naval headquarters was divided into two. Kizaru landed on the port with a dark face. Looking at the word, Marine, which was divided into two, he couldn't recover for a long time. At this time, the other Marines came late, and looked at it with a bewildered expression. A tall wall with a huge deep ditch was cut out. This is the face of Marines. What happened? Where is the enemy? The Marine who rushed over was chattering and looking around to find the enemy, but no one was seen. At this time, the warship Moran was on had long since disappeared on the sea level and was sailing far away. Boom. A person jumped from a long distance, fell on the ground and stirred up a cloud of dust. When the dust dispersed, everyone discovered that it was their teacher. Sengoku looked at the deep ditch, and asked in a deep voice, what's going on with Kizaru? Chapter 142. Rayleigh brings Luffy and others to Impel Down to save people. I don't blame Marshal Sengoku, you caused the trouble. Hearing Sengoku's question, Kizaru resumed his casual attitude. Sengoku felt Haki remaining on the wall, and asked with a black face, did that be ******** D Alphad Moran do it? He didn't expect Moran to be so steely, he said he would do it without leaving any leeway, he just wanted to tear Blackbeard into pieces. Grandma didn't want to mess with anyone, but she messed with this scourge, we Marines didn't dare to fight him steel, where did you get the courage? Kizaru twisted his mouth and said, that's right, he chopped it out before he left. Sengoku looked at Kizaru Fox and asked, weren't you here at the time? Why didn't you stop it? Hearing this, Kizaru's already wrinkled face wrinkled into a ball and said speechlessly, if I didn't stop it just now, it would not only be as simple as a hole in the wall, but the headquarters building might be split open by him. Hearing this, Sengoku was silent, he also knew the horror of this guy. He even touched this guy just now. It is really ridiculously strong. Alphad Moran is AB ************** D. Sooner or later Lousy will kill him. The silent people heard the angry curses coming from a dark corner not far away, and they all looked there, only to see a bloody man stumbled out. Sengoku looked at Kizaru next to him with a puzzled face and asked, "Who is this person?" There's no way it can't be blamed on him not being able to recognize him. It's really normal that Blackbeard's clothes are torn and his whole body is stained red with blood. At this moment, Blackbeard's body was covered with blood, but he couldn't find a single wound, and it was all absorbed by his ability. He only needed to pay double the pain and physical strength to recover from the injury. Looking at Marine who was gradually surrounding him, Blackbeard's face darkened and he roared angrily, "You bastards, Lousy is Marshal D. Teach, the captain of the Blackbeard pirates." Hearing this, Sengoku sarcastically said, "I thought you would be killed by Alphad Moran, but I didn't expect you to be alive." Thief ha 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 ha. Blackbeard laughed loudly and said with disdain on his face, "Lousy will not die so easily, it's just a pity, the crew members that Lousy managed to find were all killed by that B************* D. After speaking, Blackbeard thought with a gloomy face, but it doesn't matter. Before long, Lousy will be able to CBDB subdue those monsters. Those who are dead are not eligible to board Lousy's boat. He originally wanted to leave Marineford directly, but his plan hadn't been completed yet, so he was unwilling to hide in the dark to observe, and only dared to come out after seeing Moran gone. Near Impel Down after half a day. At this time, the members of the Wanjian pirates are hovering around Impel Down with the warship they snatched casually, circling around Impel Down, waiting to see when Impel Down will cause chaos. Even if Luffy and Blackbeard don't come, he has nothing to lose. Anyway, there are still 3 days before the summit war kicks off. If there is no chaos here, he will have time to go back. At this time, Moran looked lazy, lying on the deck chair basking in the sun, and the sun shone on him, making him squint his eyes comfortably. The only fly in the ointment is that there is no Chitong feeding him snacks and fruits, and Robin giving him a massage. Moran thought secretly. At this time, Van Orca was sitting on the watchtower wiping his sniper rifle, but his eyes were looking around to see if there were any ships passing by. This was the task Moran gave him. They couldn't do it before Impel Down was messed up. Exposure, so arrange for him to look around. At this time, Van Orca saw a small black spot on the sea level far away, and quickly took a look at his sniper rifle, and shouted, "The captain has a warship coming, do we need to go there and deal with it?" Moran squinted his eyes and said without raising his head, "Let's go and sink the warship directly. We can't expose it yet. It's the captain." After finishing speaking, Moran stood up and swept over observation hockey, showing a suddenly realized expression and said, "You guys move the warship over, I will go there to play for a while." After speaking, he shot straight into the sky, turned into a bolt of lightning and disappeared in a few flashes. At this time, there was a warship not far from them, sailing slowly and approaching Impel Down, but the people on the warship were not Marine, but members of the Straw Hat Pirates, and a gray-haired old man Rayleigh, because of the plot of Sabayati Archipelago. Moran's interference, Luffy and others were not photographed flying, so there is no way to know Boa Hancock, no one can bring Luffy to Impel Down, so they snatched a warship, pretended to be Marine and came to Impel Down, no need to guess this must be Rayleigh's handwriting. Luffy and others don't even know what propulsion is, so it is impossible to think of this method. How long until Uncle Rayleigh arrives at Impel Down? Luffy, who was sitting on the bow, looked at the burning life paper in his hand and asked anxiously. However, what Luffy didn't notice was that the direction of the life paper in his hand was not the direction of Impel Down they were going to, because Ace was no longer in Impel Down. Rayleigh looked helpless. Kaido, "It's not far from Impel Down." Luffy asked every few minutes along the way, and he was numb to all the questions he asked. On the watchtower, Usopp murmured tremblingly, "It's over this time, wouldn't it be self-inflicted to enter such a ghostly place?" At this time, he suddenly saw a warship not far ahead, put on his single binoculars and took a look, and after seeing the people on the warship clearly, he shouted, "There is a warship in front of Luffy, it seems to be that Shichibukai on it Moran, they are approaching us, they should have spotted our warship." Rayleigh continued with a solemn face and said, "Shichibukai Alphad Moran, one of the top pirate groups in the sea, if he wants to stop us, he has to think otherwise if he wants to save Ace. It's done. Uncle Rayleigh, aren't you the vice captain of One Piece? Even you can't help it." Luffy turned around and asked blankly. In Luffy's cognition, One Piece is equal to the most powerful pirate, this logic is not wrong, it's a pity that there is a fake Wanjian pirates. Rayleigh smiled wryly and said, "Even if the Roger pirates more than 20 years ago, the victory against the current Wanjian pirates is less than 50%, let alone the old man and me now." What? Luffy's eyes widened in shock, and he asked in a daze, "Isn't One Piece the most powerful pirate?" Chapter 143. Operation Uchiha Impel Down Chaos begins. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 492. 123. 164. Rayleigh patiently explained. The Luffy pirates are not necessarily the strongest. There were a few pirates that were not weaker than Rogers, such as the Whitebeard pirates and the Flying Pirates. These people are not weak. They didn't become the One Piece, but they didn't want to do it. Crack. Everyone was still listening to Rayleigh's explanation in shock, when suddenly a thunder and lightning flashed across the sky, accompanied by Moran's voice. Everyone who heard the sound came back to their senses. Rayleigh raised his head solemnly, and looked at the unknown Moran, who was standing on top of the mast, asked, "Didn't you go to naval headquarters, Moran boy?" Moran stood firmly on the top of the sail and said, "There was a little accident. I left naval headquarters temporarily, and I will go to play in a few days." Mo. 567. Lan finished speaking and looked around for a marine on board and asked again, "Are you planning to go to Impel Down to save that Zuhan and Ace?" Rayleigh also knew that he couldn't hide it from this guy, so he directly admitted, "That's right, we're planning to go to Impel Down to save Ace. Moran boy, don't you want to stop us?" Moran looked at Rayleigh, who was wearing a marine coat, and said speechlessly, "Rayleigh, do you think I'm so free?" Knowing that Moran didn't come to stop him, Rayleigh breathed a sigh of relief and asked, "If you didn't come to stop us, why are you here?" "You'd better leave me alone. I won't stop you if you go to Impel Down, as long as you don't tell anyone you've seen me. If the news about me being here gets out, you don't even think about getting out of Impel Down. Do you understand?" He also didn't tell Rayleigh that Ace is no longer in Impel Down. If he told them now, they probably wouldn't go to Impel Down. If they didn't go to Impel Down, there would be no chaos here. Impel Down is not chaotic. Blackbeard is alone now. How is it possible? How could it be so easy to show up? Moran asked secretly. At this time Luffy suddenly stood up and asked naively, "Don't you have a good relationship with Ace, Moran? Why don't you save him?" Moran looked at the naive Luffy and said speechlessly, "Although my relationship with Ace is good, it's not good enough to make me fight Marine." Rayleigh wanted to leave here quickly, so he persuaded, "Leave Luffy alone and save Ace. We have no time to waste. Let's go." Rayleigh didn't want to be in contact with Moran for too long at this time. This guy has a volatile personality. If he suddenly wanted to stop them, where would they cry? At this time, Acedus and the others also approached the warship, and Moran didn't want to stay here anymore, so he said, "Haha. Since you are in a hurry, then I won't bother you. I wish you all the best on the way to save lives. Good luck." Crack. After Moran finished speaking, he turned into a bolt of lightning, soaring into the sky and streaked across the sky. After a few flashes, he disappeared without a trace. He came here just to confirm whether Luffy and the others really went to Impel Down to save people. He was worried. Luffy and the others received the news of Ace's transfer in advance and did not go to Impel Down. After all, Shaki's intelligence work is really good, but this time they probably didn't receive the news, because the transfer of Ace was a temporary decision. Seeing Moran flying away, Rayleigh said, "Luffy has never been with us, don't expect him to rescue people with us, but think about how we can save Ace from the Impel Down come out." Chopper's eyes lit up and he said excitedly, "When that guy went to Magnetic Drum Island to get Dr. Dolly's medical books, he said he owed Dr. Dolly a favor, and Dr. Dolly said that if I got into trouble, I could try it. Ask him for help. We can ask him to rescue Ace." "Correct. We're going to ask him for help now." Luffy and the others were very happy and wanted to ask Moran for help. Rayleigh looked at the group of innocent little guys, and could only say helplessly, "Little guys have different favors, and I think he was just talking about the favors in a few books. If it's a small matter, he will help you solve it casually, but if you want him to help you save people, don't be too whimsical." Ah, can't it work? When Chopper and the others heard this, they lowered their heads like a defeated rooster, their faces full of disappointment. Slap. Moran just flew back and landed on the warship, and said directly, "Uchiha Madara, come here, I have something to do for you." Search. As soon as Uchiha Madara heard that there was something to do, he searched and came to Moran and asked, "Master Moran, do you have any orders? You will directly release the clone later, and send a message back to let your main body become a manager inside to create chaos. The more chaos you make, the better, but don't reveal your identity, understand?" The reason why he can't reveal his identity is because he is afraid that Sengoku will think that he has something to do with Impel Down and send someone over. If so, Blackbeard probably won't dare to show up. Moran has no doubt that Sengoku can send someone over. Even if Marine wants to deal with Whitebeard, there is no one. But isn't there a World ZF who is Marine's father? Moran doesn't believe that the World ZF will not cultivate strong people secretly. There are many more than those in Marine. When Uchiha Madara heard that Moran asked him to remove his clone, he nodded in dismay and said, "I see, Master Moran." Uchiha Madara thought to himself, "I thought it would be fun, but I didn't expect to let me release the clone and go back to report. If I knew it, I wouldn't tell him that I have this ability, so I can play outside for a while longer." However, what he didn't know was that Moran already knew that the main body would receive the memory of the clone when the clone was released. Boom. Uchiha Madara thought it was 4.0, but obediently released the clone, and with a bang, it turned into a puff of smoke and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. On the 6th floor of Impel Down Eternal Hell, there are two people in a murloc sitting in a prison cell. These are Uchiha and Jinbe who are lurking in Impel Down. At this moment, they are closing their eyes and resting their minds. Uchiha Madara suddenly opened his eyes. After receiving the memory of the clone, he said, "Master Moran gave us a new task. Let us become managers in Impel Down, and create chaos without exposing ourselves." Wow wow wow. When Uchiha Itachi heard this, he stood up immediately, turned into a group of crows and came out of the cell, and the crows slowly gathered outside, but it was not Uchiha Itachi, but the appearance of Hannibal, the deputy warden of Impel Down prison. Chapter 144, Uchiha releases the pirates on the 5th floor. Jinbe had already raised his head when Uchiha Madara was speaking. At this time, he stared at Uchiha Itachi who was outside the cell, and said in shock, "Your ability is really pervert. The cell made by Seastone is in front of you. It's just useless." Boom. Shut up. If you dare to talk nonsense, shut up forever. Uchiha, who was still inside, kicked Jinbe directly in the stomach and threatened. After speaking, Uchiha Madara made a bang, and turned into a prisoner wearing a prison uniform. His hands were also handcuffed, but they were fake. He could break free at any time. At this time, Uchiha Itachi Sharingan outside turning around, I was burning the door lock of the cell with Amaterasu flames, and the door lock was burned out after a while. Who is here? Could it be a brother who ran out? If you really escaped, brother, you should release us too. It's very difficult for you to escape alone. However, in the dark eternal hell, apart from the crow just heard, it returned to a peaceful state, and there was no movement for a long time. Get Lousy out quickly, or else when Lousy gets out, I'll be the first to kill you. Do you hear? Seeing that the people in the dark didn't respond, someone began to yell and threaten Road. Boom. The pirates inside the eternal hell still didn't hear anyone's response, but only heard the sound of closing the door. At this time, the two of Uchiha had already left the eternal hell and came to the elevator. Get off the elevator and prepare to go directly to the 5th floor, release some prisoners to make Impel Down mess up. Two guards in the monitoring room found Uchiha and one of them asked, "How did Deputy Director Hannibal bring a prisoner out of eternal hell? Do we need to report to Director Magellan?" Quote. It should be that Deputy Director Hannibal received some order to interrogate the prisoner. We don't care about this kind of thing, don't worry about it, just do our job well. The two guards in the monitoring room didn't doubt Uchiha Itachi's transformation into Hannibal, and started to go about their business again. Ding. The elevator came to the 5th floor, and the two of them came out, wandered around the white 5th floor, saw a prison cell not far away, and walked over directly. Hannibal, are you so bored that you come to the 5th floor to hang out? Ha 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 ha, that's right. These people are not much better than us, they are just a different kind of prisoner, and they stay in this dark place every day. When the pirates in the cell saw Hannibal approaching, they immediately laughed at him. In fact, what they said was right, the guards here are just a different kind of prisoner, and there is no difference except that they are more free. Bang 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 bang. However, Hannibal, who Uchiha Itachi turned into, walked over and kicked all the doors of the cell, and then said with a blank face, "If you don't want to die, shut up, and all of you who come out go and release the first prisoner. Prisoners on the 5th floor, don't think about escaping by yourself, you can't get out by yourself." After speaking, they threw several bunches of keys on the ground. They stayed here not just lurking. They also used ninjutsu to go out several times without anyone noticing. They stole countless keys and the like. But the two of them only stole the keys of the 5th floor and the 6th floor. This was arranged by Moran, and Blackbeard who doesn't have the key can only be dumbfounded by then. Seeing that the door of the cell was kicked to pieces, and a bunch of keys thrown on the ground, a group of pirates stood there in shock and looked at Uchiha Itachi and the two of them. The pirates who came back to their senses exclaimed, "You're not Hannibal, who the hell are you?" Bump. The pirate who just spoke was kicked away by the person next to him, and he said speechlessly, "Since the adult who saved us has become Hannibal, he just doesn't want people to know who he is, and you still ask such a question of sand coins, are you looking for death?" After the man finished speaking, he came to Uchiha Itachi respectfully and asked, "Sir, do you have any orders? Just say that we will help you." Yes. The other pirates also expressed their opinions. He wanted to hold his thighs and come out to take the lead in expressing his opinion. He knew that no one who could run out here by himself was a simple guy. He just hugged his thighs and it was over. Uchiha Itachi said blankly, "You just need to release all the prisoners on the 5th floor. The keys have been given to you. After the 5th floor is released, you all need to rush out together." A pirate asked with a puzzled face, "What about you two adults?" Uchiha Itachi and the others turned around and left without looking back, saying, "We're going to the 6th floor to do something, you guys run first." A group of people were full of doubts. Watching the two of Uchiha walk away slowly, a pirate suddenly realized and exclaimed, "I finally understand why you two adults are going to the 6th floor." A group of people looked at the speaker one after another, waiting for his next words. The pirate didn't whet his appetite, but said directly, "I guess they are afraid that it is not safe for them to go out by relying on us, so they plan to release the group of people. Monster bar. If there are really monsters from the 6th floor involved, then our chances of escaping from Impel Down will be reduced from less than 30% to more than 50% now. Stop talking so much nonsense, we will act separately to free all the prisoners on the 5th floor as quickly as possible, but don't wait until the two adults have liberated the 6th floor, we haven't leaves to complete the liberation, it would be a shame." Yes. Let's all start to act. However, what they didn't know was that Uchiha and the others never planned to release the prisoners on the 6th floor. They released the 5th floor only to let them create chaos. It's wishful thinking to rely on the people on the 5th floor to escape. The two of them didn't really go back to the 6th floor, but wandered around in the 5th floor, as if they were looking for something. "I found the entrance to Madara, come quickly." Shiyu Zebo Itachi suddenly faced the Uchiha Madara avenue not far away. Hearing this, Uchiha Madara came to Uchiha Itachi in a few flashes, looked at the sewer mouth that had been opened in front of him, and said with a red light in his eyes, there is a lot of space inside, it should be here, Master Moran said. Layer 5.5 of the chapter 145. Rayleigh takes Luffy into Impel Down. In the sewer channel on the 5.5th floor of Impel Down, Zebo and his wife are walking deep into the channel at this time. After a while, they walked out of the channel. There is a vast space in front of them, and people can be seen faintly not far away. After walking by, the two thought to themselves, this should be here, the most mysterious 5.5th floor of Impel Down. Ivankov was watching a group of ladyboys dancing when suddenly a red light flashed in his eyes. Said to Yimazuna next to her, little Yima seems to have guests again, let's go meet them and see who they are from. Search. Ivankov just wanted to get up to check, but the two of Uchiha came to her in an instant, and Uchiha Madara asked blankly, are you Ivankov, the cadre of GMJ? Ivankov felt the aura of the two people, his face gradually became ugly and asked, who are you, and what is your business here? Uchiha Itachi took 2 steps forward and said, you don't need to know who we need to stay here for a few days, should you have any objections. After finishing speaking, Sharingan turned around, with an expression that if you dare to say no, I will kill you, and the momentum of the two of them also pressed on Ivankov at the same time. At this time, Uchiha and the two have changed back to their original colors, because there is no need to be afraid of being discovered here, and it is normal for Ivankov, who has been staying in Impel Down for many years, not to know them. They plan to hide here for a few days, waiting for Blackbeard to arrive, kill him and they can leave this ghost place by themselves. It is so boring to stay in this place. Uchiha Itachi is okay, Uchiha Madara complained more than once. Feeling the pressure like mountains and rivers, Ivankov had cold sweat on his forehead. She had only felt this level of aura from his leader Drago long. She didn't expect 2 of them to come here at once. Thinking of this, she quickly said, of course it's no problem, you can stay as long as you want, I absolutely, definitely won't mind. Now she doesn't dare to ask how they know her name, sometimes knowing too much may not be a good thing. Ivankov thought secretly. At this time, the 2 people in the monitoring room saw Hanyable appearing on the 2nd floor, and one of them stared wide-eyed and stammered, didn't Deputy Director Hanyable go to the 5th floor just now, and he hasn't come out all this time? Another prison scene comforted himself. Maybe Deputy Director Hanyable has come out, but we missed it. Another prison scene said with a mournful face, it would be understandable if one person didn't notice, but it's impossible for 2 people not to notice. The elevator and the stairs going up are the 2 places where the 2 of them mainly observe, because it doesn't matter if the other places are visible or not. If any prisoner escapes, he will pass through one of these 2 places, but they didn't find Hanyable. How did you get from the 5th floor to the 2nd floor directly? One of the prison scenes took out a phone bug and said, let's call Deputy Commissioner Hanyable and ask him what the hell is going on. Another prison scene hurriedly stopped him. Don't call Deputy Director Hanyable. If there are 2 Deputy Directors Hanyable in Impel Down, no one will know if the 2nd floor is real or not. Prison King, who was about to make a call, asked with a sad face, then what should I do? Another prison scene thought for a while, and then said, call Director Magellan directly, and let Director Magellan decide for himself. Okay, I'll call Commissioner Magellan right away. Boo boo boo, boo boo. Da da da. At the director's office on the 4th floor, there was only one prison scene who was sorting out files at this time. When he heard the phone bug ringing, he hurriedly ran to the toilet with the phone bug, stood outside the toilet door and shouted, Director Magellan is in the monitoring room. I'm on the phone, why don't you come out and answer the phone first? Guggy. The toilet door opened, Magellan's calf trembled, and he came out with a look of exhaustion, took the phone bug and said, Mossy, Mossy. I'm Magellan. The voice of the prison scene in the monitoring room came from the phone bug. Report Director Magellan, we just saw Deputy Director Hanyable go to the 6th floor and the 5th floor, and then did not see him coming out of these 2 floors, but appeared directly on the 2nd floor. Hearing this, Magellan's face darkened, and he asked, are you sure you read it right? The prison scene in the monitoring room assured in a panic. The elevator and the stairs have always been the focus of observation, and it is impossible for us to see it wrong. Magellan thought for a while before ordering. You are now staring at the elevator and stairs, as well as Deputy Director Hanyable on the 2nd floor, and I will deal with the rest. It's Director Magellan. Boo boo boo, boo boo. Magellan hung up the phone bug and wanted to go out to deal with the matter, but the phone bug rang again, so he had to go back to answer the phone. Before Magellan had time to speak, an anxious voice came from the opposite side. It's not good, Director Magellan, all the prisoners on the 5th floor have been released, and they are rushing up the stairs to the 4th floor. Hearing this, he knew that the Hanyable on the 5th floor was a fake, so he directly ordered, you tell Hanyable on the 2nd floor to guard the entrance of the 4th floor, and I will deal with the prisoners on the 5th floor. 0. It's Director Mike Magellan. Magellan hung up the phone bug, and angrily rushed to the entrance of the stairs on the 4th floor, but what he didn't know was that the 1st floor was also very lively at this time. Rayleigh and Luffy wanted to sneak in, but was found we can only force our way through. At this time, Rayleigh and Luffy were rushing down to the 2nd floor. At the exit, they met Hanyable who had received the news and rushed over. At this time, only Hanyable was left standing, and the others were all lying on the ground. Rayleigh looked at Hanyable who was blocking the way, and persuaded him, little guy, you are not our opponent, if you continue to block us, you will die. Hanyable roared with an ugly face, don't be so wordy. Unless I die, otherwise you don't want to pass by me. Luffy came out and said, if that's the case, then I can only knock you into the air first, and then save Ace. Second gear. After Luffy finished speaking, one arm was propped on the ground, and the heel and arm bulged a few circles, bouncing up and down like water, and the skin began to turn red and steam, as if using a stimulant, and disappeared in place in an instant after standing up. There was only a puff of steam left on the spot, but the person had already come behind Hannibal, and a whip leg swept Hannibal's neck. Boom. Rumbling. Hannibal was directly swept away and hit the wall beside him, his whole body sank into the wall, and he couldn't even buckle it off. Chapter 146. Three parties meet in the stairs. Give me back the ace. After Luffy knocked Hannibal into the air, he rushed out, yelling while running, followed by Rayleigh with a look of lovelessness. He was discovered just because of Luffy yelling. Why is this kid so innocent? What about self-knowledge? Nami next to him said embarrassedly, Uncle Rayleigh, Luffy is like this, we can't persuade him, and we will forget all the words to persuade him. Rayleigh looked at Luffy who was running ahead without saying a word, and said secretly in his heart, he really looks like that B************** D Roger, this should be the person Roger is waiting for. He has the same death-defying personality as Roger, I'd better watch him a bit, lest he be killed before he grows up. Rayleigh thought for a long time before he said to Nami with emotion, it's okay. I have already experienced this kind of thing when I was young. Back then, Roger was just like Luffy. It's hard to say whether his ability is the first, but causing trouble is recognized as the number one on the sea. 1. Seeing the surprised expressions of Straw Hat 21 and his team, Rayleigh explained, Roger is a self-willed person. The kind of personality that wants to jump into it is similar to the current Luffy. 1. After speaking, Rayleigh secretly complained in his heart, it's not that it's almost the same, but it's almost the same. Luffy took the lead and rushed to the front, passed 5 levels and killed 6 generals, and rushed all the way to the entrance of the 4th floor of Impel Down. At this time, Magellan was alone in the middle of the stairs between 4 and 5, with blue eyes all over his body. The venom turned into dragons and rushed towards the pirates who wanted to run up. The stairs are full of pirates and prisoners, all covered in venom and convulsed. The pirates who ran up the 5th floor are now riding a tiger, timidly rushing up and afraid of death. If they don't rush up here already and a little bit unwilling. It's over, we are no match for Magellan at all, why haven't the monsters on the 6th floor come up yet? They were still fantasizing that the group of monsters on the 6th floor would come out, but what they didn't know was that the 2 of Uchiha didn't go to the 6th floor to release the group of monsters at all, but used them as gunmen, and they themselves hide inside layer 5.5. A tall and strong man came out and said, it's been so long and I haven't come out. It's probably useless to count on those monsters. If they could come out, they would have been released long ago. Are you the Budink who offered a bounty of 450 million Baileys? The crowd asked in shock when they saw the strong man walking out. Another tall and thin man came out and said, that's right, it's better to ask for others than to ask for yourself, I'm already here, I don't want to go back. That's Rixo with a bounty of 430 million berries. Then came out a few strong men who had made a name for themselves in the sea, and some strong men stepped forward, and this group of prisoners seemed to have found their backbone. We have so many strong people here, are you afraid that he will be a Magellan? Yeah, we don't have to be afraid of Magellan, he's the only one who's afraid of him. Seeing a group of prisoners gradually conquering the fear in their hearts, Magellan said with an ugly face, you bunch of garbage from the ocean, get out of your cell, or I'll kill you all. Budink said solemnly, although we are afraid of death, we are even more afraid of being imprisoned in this dark Impel Down. After finishing speaking, he shouted, let's go together. I don't believe that Magellan can have 3 heads and 6 arms, and can stop so many of us. Crush the duck. Budink and Lee Kisu took the lead to rush forward, and the people behind followed closely behind and rushed up. Just now, no one took the lead, as long as someone is willing to take the lead, all of them rushed up. There is a long tail coming out from the back, there is no way there are too many people. However, what they don't know is that numbers are meaningless in front of a real strong person, especially a poison using ability user like Magellan. Seeing this group of stubborn prisoners, Magellan's complexion gradually darkened, and poisonous dragons began to emerge from his body and rushed towards the running prisoners. Dragon. ... Bang bang. Bang. What? Budink and Lee Kisu rushed to the front and avoided the poisonous dragon several times, but they were still hit by the poisonous dragon in the end, and flew backwards and smashed into the crowd. The prisoner in front saw all the strong men being beaten back, and shouted in despair, I can't go up at all, I want to go back. I want to go back. A-hole. Don't squeeze me. You bastards, don't step on me. Some people clamored to go back, but some rushed upwards, and immediately became crowded, and some people were directly trampled to death under their feet. Some prisoners rushed up, and Magellan smashed them back with the poisonous dragon. Gradually, there were no more prisoners rushing up, and they all stayed in place tremblingly, not daring to move. Give me back the ace. Just when everyone thought they were going to be arrested again, there was a sound of footsteps above the stairs, accompanied by a loud roar. Magellan's face turned dark when he heard the voice, because he didn't recognize the voice, and the only one who could walk 460 outside but didn't recognize him was the enemy. Sure enough, after a while, A group of people he didn't know ran down, not the prisoners in Impel Down, all wearing Marine's clothes, but the size obviously didn't fit, probably the battery charger Marine broke into Impel Down. Thinking of this, Magellan asked with an ugly face, "Who are you?" Hearing this, Luffy replied simply and directly, "I am Monkey D. Luffy, the man who will become One Piece." Dragon. When Magellan heard the word pirate, he sent a poisonous dragon to Luffy without further ado. Fortunately, Luffy reacted quickly and jumped to the side, dodging Magellan's poisonous dragon. Luffy landed on the ground with a dark face and yelled, "UB ********* D. Sneak attack is very dangerous." He also yelled, "It's too dangerous, I almost got hit." Rayleigh saw that Luffy wanted to rush up to fight again, so he quickly stopped him. Luffy is one of the 2 trump cards of Impel Down, and he is also the director of Impel Down, Magellan. He is very strong, you are not an opponent, come back soon. Okay, I get it now. Hearing this, Luffy could only retreat obediently. Before coming here, Rayleigh said that after coming in, everything must be obeyed by him, otherwise he would not be brought along. Chapter 147, Rayleigh v Magellan. Magellan looked at Rayleigh with an ugly expression and asked, "One Piece's Vice Captain Silver Rayleigh, what is your role in coming to Impel Down for a legendary character like you?" Hey, did you hear what Magellan said? He said this old man is Silver Rayleigh, the Vice Captain of One Piece. That's right, he is the legendary man Silver Rayleigh, the Vice Captain of the Roger Pirates. I've seen his bounty order. Although his hair has turned gray, I can still see his shadow. If it's really this man, we still have hope of getting out. A group of prisoners who were still at the bottom of the stairs also saw Rayleigh bring Luffy down, and there was a lot of discussion. They wanted to hug their thighs, but they looked at the ground full of venom. I can only helplessly give up this idea and stand there waiting for the opportunity. Rayleigh waited for Luffy to return, then took out a knife and took 2 steps forward and said, "You guys have arrested an old man, I have no choice but to come here for a while, Magellan today let me be your opponent." After finishing speaking, he said to the people behind him, "After I stop him, you little fellows will go down to save him by yourself. Remember to be quick, before Marine comes to help us, we have to escape from 153 Impel Down, otherwise we will all gotta be left here." "I see, thank you Rayleigh," Luffy said and rushed past Magellan, not at all worried that Rayleigh would stop Magellan. Seeing this scene, Rayleigh couldn't laugh or cry, and thought to himself, "You little guy is really relieved of me." Magellan's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He felt that he was underestimated, and immediately roared, "You bastards, there must be a limit to underestimating people, right?" Dragon. Poisonous dragons emerged from Magellan's body and rushed towards Luffy and the others, but Luffy and the others continued to rush down regardless. Rayleigh came directly behind Luffy and the others in a few flashes, stopped in front of the poisonous dragon, raised the knife in his hand, and slashed out fiercely with a slash. Bump. Squeak squeak. The poisonous dragon was directly cut in 2 and fell to the ground. The ground couldn't bear Magellan's poison, a cloud of black smoke rose up, and the ground turned into potholes. "If I'm here, don't even think about going down there. You'd better stay and play with the old CBCD, boss," Rayleigh said to Magellan after seeing Luffy and others running down. Magellan's face was ugly and he was secretly anxious, but there was nothing Rayleigh could do to stop him. First hope Marine can receive the news and come to support. He just came here and didn't contact Marine, but came directly to deal with the matter here. He thought he could solve it, but he didn't expect such a scary old guy to appear out of nowhere. These guys have already come here, but Hannibal hasn't arrived. I think Hannibal has already fallen. The more Magellan analyzed, the more ugly his face became, and Hannibal asked Rayleigh directly, "What did you do to Hannibal?" Rayleigh thought for a while, and then asked uncertainly, "Are you talking about the guy who has been clamoring to be the director of Impel Down?" "Don't worry, we didn't kill him, we just knocked him out. That guy is a rare man." Rayleigh comforted Magellan. Although he wasn't afraid that this guy would go crazy, Luffy and the others below didn't have the ability. If you go crazy here, it is estimated that a large number of people will die. Hearing that Hannibal was fine, Magellan was no longer in a hurry, looked at Rayleigh and asked, "What kind of guy is worthy of a legendary figure like you to come to the rescue?" "His name is Ace, and it's inconvenient to reveal his identity." Rayleigh didn't intend to hide it. Anyway, he would know it when he was rescued. However, upon hearing Rayleigh's words, Magellan's expression became strange and he asked, "As the person you want to save, that Fire Fist Ace?" Seeing the change in Magellan's face, Rayleigh asked inexplicably, "That's right, it's him, what's the problem?" Magellan still said with a weird face, "Fire Fist Ace was picked up by Marine to Naval Headquarters a day ago, and he is not in Impel Down. You have to know that now he can only pray that the people who are going down don't release those monsters, otherwise even if Marine comes to support them later, they may not be able to deal with it." Thinking of this, he decided to give it a try, whether he could bypass Rayleigh and go down to stop those guys. He never thought about killing Rayleigh at all. Even if he could win, it would probably take several days. It's all cold. Hearing Magellan's words, Rayleigh's expression changed and he exclaimed, "What? Is Ace not in Impel Down anymore? Poison Giant. Hell's Judgment." Magellan didn't answer Rayleigh's words, but directly used the big move to emit a mass of bright red venom from his body, more and more venom, slowly forming a skull-shaped titan, and began to move down the stairs. The giant poisonous man passed by places were covered with a layer of bright red venom. Rayleigh soared into the sky and jumped into the air. The knife was covered with Hawkeye and he slashed down fiercely. He slashed down more than a dozen times in a row. Bang, 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 bang. All the slashes hit the poisoned man, and there were more than a dozen cuts on the poisoned man's body, but the poisoned man was still moving down the stairs, as if it had no effect at all, and the cuts were slowly healed by the venom. Falling back to the ground, Rayleigh looked at the giant poisonous man with pain on his face, and thought to himself, Hawkeye is useless, probably not Logia's kind of elementalization, but the Leeling created by his ability. Thinking of this, he turned his head and shouted, Hey, hey. If you don't want to die, run down to the 5th floor. If you want to die, I won't stop you. After finishing speaking, Rayleigh ran down immediately. Fighting with Magellan in such a small space was too much of a disadvantage. Let's find a wider place to fight. Rayleigh thought secretly in his heart. Rayleigh looked at the prisoner who was running along with him and asked, Hey, can you tell me where there is a wide space below? It's a disadvantage to fight this guy with too little space. The person next to him didn't answer directly, but asked cautiously, Are you really the vice captain of the Roger Pirates, Silver Rayleigh? That's right, I'm Rayleigh, can you answer my question now? Rayleigh asked again speechlessly. Chapter 148. Rayleigh Magellan Round 2. Hearing Rayleigh's answer, the prisoner next to him happily replied, There is a vast space on the 5th floor, and the space inside is very large, which is in line with what you said. After speaking, the prisoner secretly sighed in his heart. With such a legendary figure, the hope of going out has increased a lot. Rayleigh wanted to tell Luffy that Ace had been transferred, but Magellan was chasing after him, and he couldn't get away for a while. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said to the pirates beside him, Hey, I'll be there later. Stop Magellan on the 5th floor. How about you go to the 6th floor for me to tell the group of people who just went down a message, on the condition that I take you out of here. Hearing this, the prisoner next to him asked ecstatically, If you have anything to do, just tell me, and I will take care of it for you. Just tell them, 000, that Ace is no longer in Impel Down, and let them come up to join me as soon as possible, understand? Bang, bang, bang. The prisoner next to him slapped his chest and promised, I will bring you news of yours, so you can rest assured. It didn't take long for a group of people to rush out of the stairs and came to the 5th floor of freezing hell. Rayleigh looked at the vast space that could not be seen, stopped and thought in his heart, Let's play with Magellan, one of Impel Down's aces. Play. The prisoner who was following Rayleigh just now saw Rayleigh stop and knew what he was going to do, so he ran directly to the 6th floor of eternal hell without looking back, looking for Luffy and the others to bring them the news. Magellan walked out of the stairs and immediately disarmed the poison giant, because in this vast space, his poison giant was not very effective and consumed a lot of stamina. If there was no top power like Rayleigh, his poison giant would still be useless. It can have some effect, but it is not very effective against this kind of top powerhouse. Dragon. Magellan walked towards Rayleigh step by step, and blue venom emerged from his body, turning into a poisonous dragon, opening his blood basin and biting Rayleigh. Boom. Seeing the poisonous dragons opening their mouths to bite, Rayleigh disappeared in place, leaving only a large crater on the ground. He came to Magellan in an instant and slashed down fiercely. Magellan seemed to have eyes behind him, and the poisonous dragon that had rushed halfway back the same way, biting Rayleigh behind him. Boom, boom. Rayleigh looked at the return of the poisonous dragon, so he could only turn the knife that was slashing at Magellan, and then turned around and slashed at the poisonous dragon. Rayleigh's knife did not touch the poisonous dragon, but the poisonous dragons exploded one after another, and the venom did not touch Rayleigh at all. Armament Hawkeye's advanced technique, Magellan thought to himself. Magellan was still thinking about Rayleigh's Hawkeye, but he didn't notice that Rayleigh, who had landed on the ground, disappeared without a trace again, came to the sky directly in front of him, swooped down and slashed down with a knife. Magellan only had time to cover Hawkeye with his hands crossed, trying to block Rayleigh's knife, but he still underestimated these, an old guy who has been a pirate all his life. Boom. Rumble. The moment his arm touched the knife, Magellan's expression changed, and he was directly chopped off, creating a deep groove 1 meter wide and more than 10 meters long on the ground, kicking up a vast expanse of white snow. Cough. Cough. When the snow cleared, Magellan got up while coughing. His face was ugly and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His arm was not injured, but his body was seriously injured. Rayleigh's Hawkeye directly acts on his body through his Hawkeye, so that the injury in his body can't be seen on the outside. Magellan said with an ugly face, It's this kind of advanced skill of armed color, which directly acts on the body. It's really worthy of it. It's a legendary pirate. Rayleigh laughed and said, It's just a little skill, it's nothing to worry about. After Rayleigh finished speaking, he rushed to Magellan, wanting to fight Magellan in close combat, but Magellan was not an idiot, he also knew that his speed was not as fast as Hawkeye's. Poison channel. Through the poisonous dragon, the distance from Rayleigh was directly opened, and it appeared at the position of the poisonous dragon's head. Turning around, several poisonous dragons appeared on the body, opening their blood basins and biting it fully. Dragon. Bump. Bump. Rayleigh slashed the poisonous dragon with a few clicks of his backhand, and then the two played a game of chasing each other. Rayleigh slipped close to Magellan, and the distance was that the poisonous dragon served him. The enemy advances and we retreat, which makes Rayleigh wonder. Rayleigh chased after him for a while but couldn't find Magellan, so he stopped and looked at him from a distance. Anyway, he was just waiting for someone, and it wasn't him who was in a hurry, so let's spend time with him. Seeing this situation, Magellan was secretly anxious, but there was nothing he could do. Rayleigh couldn't be touched by long-range attacks, and it was only bullied when he went up to melee. Poison pufferfish. Time passed by, and finally Magellan couldn't bear it anymore. While rushing towards Rayleigh, Magellan spit out a large number of poisonous balls to attack Rayleigh. However, in the face of Magellan's poisonous balls, Rayleigh rushed towards Magellan instead of retreating, and all the poisonous balls were easily dodged by Rayleigh. Boom! Rayleigh slammed on the ground and swooped over. He came to Magellan in an instant, and thrust upward with all his strength. Wow! Before Magellan could react, he flew him upside down, and a cloud of blood burst out of his chest in the air, dyeing the white snow with a little color. Boom! Rumbling. Magellan flew upside down and hit the snow, his whole body was buried in the white snow, and he didn't see anything for a long time. When the freezing hell on the 5th floor was in full swing, Luffy and others finally came to the eternal hell on the 6th floor. At this time, Luffy was looking for Ace from cell to cell. An old man saw Luffy and shouted, "Hey, who are you, boy? Forget whoever it is, let Lousy out, how about Lousy take you out of Impel Down? Don't pay attention to these 3.2 old ghosts, boy, if you release me, I will definitely be able to take you out of Impel Down." Another strong man in the cell shouted. However, Luffy and the others turned a deaf ear and continued to search for Ace. When Luffy and the others walked away, a pirate in a cell taunted, "You group of sand dollars, this kid is wearing marine clothes, and he's not marine. If someone breaks in from outside, do you still need to take them out if they can come here?" After finishing speaking, the pirate thought to himself, "This kid is not strong, there should be a strong person behind him to open the way for him, so he was able to come here. Which B********** D is talking, are you looking for death? Since the place is dark, it is unknown who said it, and the strong man immediately cursed when he heard this. Chapter 149. Jinbe, whose hands were almost chopped off. Luffy took everyone in the eternal hell. After walking around, he still didn't see Ace. Nami couldn't help but asked, could it be that Luffy isn't holding Ace here, but somewhere else? Sanji echoed the analysis. It's not impossible, but Impel Down is so big, if we want to search every place, Marine support will have arrived by then. Hey, are you here to find Fire Fist Ace? At this time, a voice suddenly asked in the darkness of the cell not far from everyone. Hearing someone mention Ace, Luffy immediately ran to the front of the cell, and asked anxiously, "Yes, I am Monkey D. Luffy, and Ace is my big brother. Do you know where he is being held?" At this time, everyone also saw clearly the person in the cell. No, it wasn't a person, but a fat blue murloc with a vicious look. Jinbe looked at Luffy in surprise, he didn't expect that Ace's younger brother would dare to run to Impel Down to save him. Jinbe regained his senses and said, "My husband is Shichibukai Jinbe, but it should not be Shichibukai anymore, he is Ace's friend, he had been transferred to naval headquarters a day earlier." What? Sanji looked at the stunned Luffy and asked. "Luffy, what should we do now, should we go to Rayleigh first or what?" Yes, to find Rayleigh, and leave this horrible place." Usopp, who was still observing the surroundings tremblingly, immediately agreed after hearing this. Luffy thought for a while before saying, "Since Ace is not here, let's go back and find Rayleigh." After walking 2 steps, he turned around and said, "Since you are Ace's friend, then I will rescue you." Jinbei's head was lowered, but he lifted it up gratefully and said, "That was really helpful, I am very grateful." Usopp persuaded with a sad face, "Luffy, have you forgotten what Rayleigh told you when you came here? You must not release the prisoners in the 6th floor randomly, otherwise he will not be able to predict what will happen." Luffy showed a big smile and said indifferently, "It doesn't matter that he is Ace's friend, and I don't think he looks like a bad guy." Everyone looked at Jinbei's ferocious face, and secretly complained in their hearts, "With such a ferocious appearance, doesn't he look like a bad guy? Do you have any misunderstandings about the bad guy?" Luffy ignored everyone, but directly opened the cell and walked in. Because Uchiha Itachi burned the key, the cell could be opened directly. After entering, Luffy observed around Jinbe for a while and said, "How can we get you out without the key?" "Woolen cloth." Luffy suddenly brightened his eyes and said excitedly, "I figured out a way. Zoro, come here and cut off his hand, so he can come out." Hearing this, Jinbe yelled at Luffy with a black line on his face, "The old man would rather not go out than cut off your arm." After speaking, Jinbe thought for a while and said, "Just help me dig out the handcuffs on the other side of the wall. I can only figure out a solution after I get out." He was handcuffed and hung on the wall with both hands. You just need to dig out the handcuffs on the other side of the wall. He is not a seastone handcuff, and it can't limit his strength too much, but it will only make him inconvenient. Luffy turned to look at Zoro and said, "Zoro, split this wall." Zoro walked over without saying a word, drew a knife and began to swing it. Jingle. He slashed several times in a row, but there were only a few shallow white marks on the wall. Everyone looked confused. They all knew Zoro's strength, and it shouldn't be his problem, but the wall's problem. Zoro explained with an ugly face, "It's not an ordinary stone, but a very hard stone, which I can't split." At this time, a voice suddenly came from the cell next to it and said, "This wall is full of sea stone. If you don't have a key, with your strength, I advise you not to waste your efforts." "Is this the key you're talking about?" Luffy suddenly bent down to pick up a key from the ground, and asked while holding it in his hand. "How do you have the key here?" Lock Doll was in the next cell, and he looked at Luffy in a daze and asked. Luffy replied truthfully, "I just picked it up on the ground. It should be left by those 2 guys. When they came in, they said they would take them away with them." They thought they were joking, but they had already stolen the keys, but why did they go out for so long and haven't come back yet? Forget about their affairs, I don't have to worry about them, after all, these two guys are ridiculously strong. Jinbe thought secretly in his heart. Lockdoll was directly stunned by Luffy's question, and hurriedly asked after recovering. You are looking at the ground, do you still have the key? He also knew that there were two guys here for the past 2 days, but when he knew who they were, Clockdoll gave up asking for help, and he didn't dare to reveal it. The two people who can move freely in Impel Down, it was too easy to kill him, so Lockdoll acted as if they didn't exist. If you don't have one, this is the key. After speaking, Luffy came to Jinbe's side and unlocked him while asking, is Jinbe also Ace's friend? Crack donkey. Jinbe, who was unlocked and freed, moved his wrist before replying. He doesn't know Ace, this man is the former 7 warlords of the sea, who was sent in by Alphad Moran, and Alphad Moran replaced him at that time. His position has become the new 7 warlords of the sea. Hearing this, Sanji said with emotion, Alphad Moran is really everywhere. When they entered the Zhou Nuo's Grand Line, they heard all kinds of legends about this guy. His pirate group could fight against 2-4 emperors at the same time. It's not just this Clockadar, many of the pirates on this floor were sent in by him. Jinbe also said with emotion when he heard this. Zoro saw that everyone was still chatting, and reminded, Luffy, we don't have much time to waste here, hurry up and meet Rayleigh. Nami also echoed. Yes, yes, yes. Hurry up and get out of this place, or we won't be able to escape if Marine support comes over. I see, let's go up then. After Luffy responded, he ran ahead immediately, and the people behind quickly followed Luffy's footsteps. They had long wanted to leave this ghostly place. Chapter 150. Blackbeard reaches Impel Down. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 417. 104. 139. Near Impel Down the next morning. At this time, the warship that Moran snatched is parked here. They are waiting for Blackbeard to come over, and they are also waiting for the start of the Summit War. Impel Down cannot see him from this position, and they cannot see Impel Down with naked eyes, but Moran's knowledge it has been covering the surrounding area to observe every move of Impel Down, but it can only observe the first layer on the sea surface, and there are too many sea kings around the sea to observe. Moran was lying on the deck chair, basking in the sun comfortably, and Tornado was pouting, sitting aside and feeding this shameless guy snacks and fruits. Obviously Chitong is not here, and Moran has trained another feeding staff, although this little girl is reluctant. At this time, a news bird quacked and flew across the sky. The news bird saw the warship on the sea level and circled around the warship a few times in the air. Moran heard the movement and opened his eyes to see the warship in the sky. The news bird, with a smile on the corner of its mouth, raised its hand and pulled it down, and the news bird uncontrollably fell towards Sao Lan on the warship. Plop, plop. The news bird flapped its wings vigorously, but it was of no avail, and landed not far from Moran. Moran looked at Newsbird with a smirk on his face, and threatened, give me the newspaper, or I will stew you, you can choose one yourself. Newsbird trembled all over, stumbled to Moran, and obediently handed over the newspaper to him. Newsbird cursed angrily in his heart. Although I am not a human, you are a real dog. Moran ignored the fire-eyed newsbird, but looked at the newspaper in his hand, which was about his being revoked the title of Shichibukai. Shichibukai Alphad Moran fought against the Blackbeard pirates in naval headquarters, and almost wiped out the Blackbeard pirates. Fortunately, Blackbeard Marshal D. Teach escaped so that they would not be destroyed. Alphad Moran seriously violated it is an agreement that Shichibukai cannot fight among themselves, and Alphad Moran's title of Shichibukai is hereby revoked, and the reward order will be issued again. Dragon Emperor. Alphad Moran, the 5th Emperor of New World, offers a bounty, 4.55 billion Baileys. Ice Queen, Acedus, a combat member of the 10,000 Swords Pirates, has a bounty of 1.23 billion Baileys. Afterwards, there were all kinds of reward orders. The reward orders for combat members were almost the same, all around 1 billion Baileys. The others who were not combat members were all offered rewards of hundreds of millions of Baileys each. His title is no longer Shichibukai, but has become the title, Dragon Emperor, given to him by others. He himself does not know why he became the 5th Emperor. He originally thought that after the Summit War passed, go to New World to pull a 4 emperors off the horse, and sit in the position of 4 emperors yourself. After reading the newspaper, Moran looked at Acedus and asked, Acedus Straw Hat Crew, how long have you been in? Acedus thought for a while. Kaido. They went in last night and it's been a night now, they probably all died inside. Moran rolled his eyes when he heard this, and said speechlessly, that old fellow Rayleigh died so easily, he must have been stopped by Magellan. Suddenly, a red light flashed in Moran's eyes, and within the scope of his knowledge, there appeared a warship approaching Impel Down, and the team led by Akainu on the warship should come to support Impel Down. After observing for a while, Moran suddenly smiled, and thought to himself, this guy is finally here. Akainu suddenly turned his head to look at Moran. Moran quickly withdrew to observation hockey. Akainu over there looked around, not to mention that there were no ghosts on the boat, and thought to himself, is it an illusion? After investigating Akainu on the warship, he couldn't find the reason, so he had to give up the investigation and continue on his way to Impel Down. After Akainu's warship went away, Moran looked at Uchiha Itachi's clone, and ordered, Uchiha Itachi, remove the clone, and send a message to the main body in Impel Down, saying that Blackbeard has come, let the two of them be in Impel Down come out after you've killed Blackbeard. I see. Boom. After Uchiha Itachi finished speaking, he released the shadow clone directly, and it exploded into a cloud of smoke with a bang. Acedus looked at Uchiha Itachi who had turned into smoke, and asked Moran very curiously, what ability does Moran have? Can I learn? At this time Moran lay down again and closed his eyes, unwilling to open his comfortable eyes, and casually said, just ask Senju Hashirama about this, the three of them are all from the same world, although I know a little, but there are no details that they themselves know. Asking for flowers. Acedus ran to ask Senju Hashirama if she could learn this ability, but this ninjutsu needs chakra to activate, and his plan was probably going to fail, and Acedus came back dejected after a while. At this time, Impel went down to the 5th floor, and Magellan was blocking the stairs. He had been fighting with Rayleigh for several hours. Luffy and others had already returned. The elevator had been shut down, and there was Magellan at the stairs. People covered in poison stand there, making it difficult for them to move forward, and they won't be able to escape unless Magellan is dealt with first. Magellan's face was pale and bloodless, bleeding from all 7 orifices, and there were knife wounds all over his body, especially the deep bone wound on his chest. He had reached the limit, and he knelt on the stairs with one foot panting, staring at Rayleigh. Although Rayleigh was not injured, he was still out of breath. After all, he was old. Even if he was stronger than Magellan, he was exhausted enough by Magellan. Rayleigh said with an ugly face, Magellan, if you don't get out of the way, the old man will kill you. They have been here for too long, maybe Marine is already on the way, if they continue to waste, they will have no hope of running out. Magellan stood up crookedly again, and said with a pale face, as long as I'm not dead, you don't want to pass by me. Poison giant. Hell's judgment. Magellan knew he couldn't last long, so he wanted to create a stairway full of poison, trying to delay time in this way. Seeing the stubborn Magellan, Rayleigh showed no mercy, and shouted, since you want to die so much, then I'll make it happen for you. One-shot kill. Rayleigh saw the bright red venom starting to emerge from Magellan's body, so he knew what he wanted to do, and he had to be interrupted. He quickly disappeared in place, leaving only a big pit where he was stepped on, and Rayleigh had already when it came to Magellan, the speed was like a teleportation, and it passed Magellan.